Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
John Lovett in the backfield. He's got the rock. Left side. Lovett bounces it outside. Oh, I love it, John. He dives for the pylon. Touchdown, Baylor.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Dalton. Under some pressure. Shovels it forward. And Zeke fumbles the football. And Jordan Phillips came up with the football for Arizona.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here's 1st and 10. Kyler Murray, a deep shot, got a man, and it's caught. Christian Kirk. How about 80 yards to the house, just like that?
Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
And he's going for the bomb and picked up. Braylon Arnold.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Man, a couple of things to get to. First of all, Baylor, Texas, Saturday. It's the 110th meeting between the two teams. Baylor's only played TCU more. Yes, Texas has dominated the rivalry the last 10 years. You know what's interesting, Craig and Paul? The last 10 years, it's 5-5. And there was a stretch in 15, 16, 17, and 18 where Texas won 4 in a row. And the only year, really, that they were favored, well, you would say 17 and maybe 18. But the last 10 years, it's a 5-5 series between Baylor and Texas. And yet, to me, it seems that it's been more Baylor, despite the fact the 15 game got away, 16 got away, and we even know that the game in 2012 got away from Baylor. It could be 8-2 or something like that.
Yeah, well, and look, the 17 or the 18 game really in Austin almost got away from Texas.
Yes, it did.
And,
absolutely.
If Charlie Brewer's pass is about 6 inches shorter, Denzel Mims scores a touchdown and they win that game.
If they count a interception in that game, then Baylor probably wins that game. Yeah, there's been some wild and kind of wacky endings to the games here over the last decade. Obviously Texas leads the all-time series. It's not even close. I mean, they lead by like 50-plus games, but Baylor has carved away at it a little bit. They've had more opportunities to carve away, and they've got another opportunity to carve away at Texas again this Saturday. I know that UT has come out with a hype video. They're going to be wearing their all-white Stormtrooper uniforms that they're known for, but the difference in them wearing their all-white is that I think they actually toned these down more towards the original Stormtroopers. There's not like a little accent here and there like you've seen. And based on what I saw, like there's not even Texas across the chest. I might have just, missed that little clip of it, but it looks like they're, going to the well of let's do something to drum up some excitement and fall back on our tradition and things like that. So they're drumming up the Stormtrooper uniforms for this weekend, and this is clearly a big game for them.
The uniforms look good, and they are. And their all whites are very nice, but you still have the players inside the uniforms that have to play the game. There was this time when under the Bryles when they started to really be good, where the uniforms became something that did jack up the fan base quite a bit, whether it was the chrome helmets or the all blacks or whatever it was, but you still have to play the game.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to resort to gimmicks.
I don't know if is that a gimmick?
Or just like those, we've got these uniforms on, so we're going to play better. Yeah. I know that, Deion Sanders, if you look good, you play. If you feel good, you play good, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, if you're Baylor, you're just happy to play a game, for God's sakes. But if you're Texas, you need to win badly.
Whatever uniforms you're wearing.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. So throw it like, the uniforms are going to change. Like, no. The uniforms aren't going to change anything.
I think they're trying to drum up some excitement. I mean, what reason do they have for excitement right now? They've been stewing on the Oklahoma loss for 2 weeks. Quite frankly, didn't have any business even being in overtime in that game, but the Big 12 officials screwed up the clock in just an embarrassing way, but led to a classic game and led to a loss for them, and then led to plenty of talk about the eyes of Texas afterwards and all that's been going on there. And Fans want Urban Meyer to replace Tom Herman, and so they need something. They need something to get excited about. Maybe a little bit of the, hey, we're going to wear our traditional all whites and we're going to play better as a result of it. I think you're just trying to figure out something that gets the fans pumped up for Saturday and gets the players pumped up as well.
Last year, Baylor dominated. That was like seeing somebody turn a body into a pretzel. There was the long run right before the half that got away from Baylor when Ingram went 68 yards. They kick a field goal, and you're like, my God, they've dominated, and yet, that kind of was that going to turn the tide? And Baylor immediately in the third quarter took control of that game. Matt in D.C., TJ said they need to drum up a new coaching staff. Matt in D.C., I like the all-whites. Blood will show up better when our defense punches them in the mouth over and over again. Steven, hey, guys, I don't know much, but I do know that Tom Herman will not be the coach for very long after a possible loss to Baylor. Yeah, they lose Saturday. It could be. It's already been a long season because 2-2. And then you start to wonder, if you look at Texas, they've played 4 games. As Craig mentioned, they're 2-2. They lose to Baylor. Who else are they going to beat the rest of the way? They have Kansas, and Puka Williams is gone. But you start to play a few more people that can beat you down the stretch. And then again, who knows? I don't think there's one team that separates itself yet in the Big 12. At least I can't tell because there's not enough evidence. And for Baylor, dropping to 1-2 in the conference would be deadly as well if they want to get back to the conference championship game like they did a year ago.
Yeah, and I don't want to dwell too much on the uniforms, but in that video, I was right. There's no name on the back and there's no name on the front. I mean, they're very plain white uniforms. And what's unique about it is they don't typically wear those at home, I don't believe. It's, orange and white or whatever, and so they're breaking them out for a home game. So that's another, what appears to be a little bit of a difference. If there's a diehard Texas fan that's like, no, we've worn that plenty of times, then correct me. But that's what I'm gathering from some of the chatter. So, yeah, I mean, Texas is in a tough spot right now. They are, basically out of the playoff conversation at this point. And Baylor's not really in it either. That's not the important thing. You're trying to just get to the Big 12 championship game, and Baylor's still got a chance, but Texas would be dead in the water with their third loss.
Yeah, they would. And again, maybe the no names, go back to the basics, no egos, no individualism, anything like that. Speaking of which, they are barking in Frisco. The Cowboys were humiliated last night on Monday Night Football by the Cardinals. Bobby Belt put this out after the game, and through almost 6 games, the Cowboys have now turned the ball over 14 times. 5 of them are Zeke. 6 failed fourth down conversions. 2 missed field goals, although last night was a long one. Dallas has now basically turned the ball over 22 of 68 drives. Nearly every third drive, they turn over the football. They were humiliated, and that was after the defense showed a pulse early in the game. They've now allowed 35 or 34 points in 5 consecutive games, longest in NFL history. Yeah. Tied for longest in history. 343 times a quarterback has attempted 54 passes in a game. Andy Dalton's 266 yards is the 12th fewest out of 343 he had to throw the ball 54 times. That's not what you want Andy Dalton doing.
No, and I don't see a way out of this quagmire for the Cowboys right now.
I do. They have the Giants and the Eagles and the Redskins on the schedule.
Yeah, but that's still just going to make them, a slightly, they're still below average. They're going to be at an above average, below average team.
The quote Jerry used today was, hey, I'm not going to try to look at this as if someone's going to make the playoffs from the NFC East right now. He said, that's like saying you're slower than me. No, I'm ahead of you. I'm slow, but I'm ahead of you. And he's not, listen, you could tell he's pretty frustrated, as he should be. And some of it, of course, he needs to look in the mirror.
Well, they got their brains beat in, and that was what you feared could happen. I thought that they would actually play a close game. I wasn't convinced by any means of a Cowboys victory because the Cardinals are a good team after all. And what we've seen defensively versus a Kingsbury offense with Kyler Murray pulling the trigger, it's just like that's not a great matchup for you. But it went way worse than I expected it to. I thought that they would have, some fight in them, and that game was over, pretty quickly. So I don't know what the answers are. This is just a bad Cowboys football team. And then the Dak injury happens last week, and, you had to be very careful with that. Well, Andy Dalton looked pretty okay. He led them, they won the game, and it's like, yeah, but it's a whole different story when he's actually starting the football game. Man. And he did not look like the guy who closed out the game last week. Let me ask you this. Is this rock bottom? Like, is this the low point of the season, or is there actually a lower point? Because I can't imagine a lower point.
I think if they lose to the Redskins, who themselves are 1-5, if they lose to Washington, that's even a deeper rock bottom.
So there's one advantage that Washington has in this game coming up that is that's pretty prodigious in that the fact that they have a really good defensive line. The Redskins have been drafting guys high on the defensive line for years now, and so they've got good players in the defensive line. The Cowboys, I don't know if they're going to have Zach Martin or not, but even if they do, they're still playing with a patchwork offensive line of rookies and backups, and Connor Williams, who probably should be a backup. It's not good.
Here's the problem, though. The Redskins have a very talented defensive line, but they never score. They gave up 20. They won their first game when Philadelphia melted down. They took over that game. Now we realize the Eagles aren't very good. They gave up 30 to the Cardinals, 34 to the Browns, 31 to the Ravens, 30 to the Rams, and then that game on Sunday with the Giants, two pathetic teams. And so it ended up 20-19. They went for the jugular. So, yes, their defensive front is fantastic, but they can't do anything on offense, and so they're on the field too long, and their secondary is no different than Dallas. It's very vulnerable. So 254-339-1122. We'll take your calls and text messages throughout the day. Your calls right now at 254-339-1122 on Sikkim 365 Radio. Mack Rhoades at 420. David Hellman at 445. Troy running back Zach Robochik today at 5. We'll have John McClain at 5:30, and much more to come to you between now and 6 o'clock on Sikkim 365 Radio.
All right, Joe in DFW. Joe, thanks for your call.
Hey, fellas, thanks for taking my call. As far as all of the negative that talks about the Cowboys, and again, I have to state, I'm not a Cowboys fan at all. I watch it because I'm up here, but I'm not a Cowboys fan. But the one, little microscopic, shiny thing that they can look at for Cowboys fans, hey, you're winning your division. So you can't poo-poo on it completely. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can poo-poo on it quite a bit, but you're still ahead in your division. So you got something to hang on to, because it never fails. Jerry Jones always comes out smelling like a rose, even when you know what happens. But real quick, as far as Baylor goes, I mean, it's like I mentioned yesterday, as long as those guys come out and play, lean on their defense, and I really feel like if they can get the run game going and then start doing the little short passes with Charlie Brewer, I don't think Baylor's gonna be too far off. I have a feeling they're going to come in there and scare the mess out of Texas, and then Texas is going to panic, and they're going to try to do too much, and then that's when Baylor's going to be able to just, hey, let's just play football, and I think we'll be all right. Let's just stay basic with Baylor, just because, hey, we haven't had a whole lot of game time, and we haven't been on the green field very much. So, hey, I'll hang up and listen. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, Joe, it's great to hear from you, man. Appreciate your time, support of Sikkim 365 Radio, 254-339-1122. If they can just get off to some sort of, if the offense can show something that looks like they're in rhythm, that, leads to something positive. Who knows what might happen, because we don't know who they are yet, because we don't know, they haven't played enough.
I don't think there's a team that is going to go in there with a lack of focus or a lack of energy. So I feel like, they're going to have that pep in their step when they arrive. Does Texas have a moment early on where maybe they can, kind of avalanche Baylor a little bit, and how does Baylor respond to that? Or does Baylor just play well right out of the gate? I mean, we don't know until we see them out there, but certainly you limit the mistakes. You just play smart football. You're going to give yourself a chance, because I don't think Texas is so good that they're just going to run you out of the building on their own merit. As long as you play relatively well, you're going to be in this game, and you're going to have a chance, if you make a couple plays, to maybe win this game. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion who walks out of Saturday, with their hand raised. So they've got a great opportunity. And, that's one thing about the NFL, going to your point about the Cowboys. That's why I just don't get excited about division championships, and maybe it's because the team that I root for never wins them. But, yes, it's an automatic playoff spot, but I don't know how many people out there can actually recite division championships, or has a poster with all your division championships. It means you get in the playoffs, and that's all it means, really.
The Cowboys essentially win it every other year. What does it matter?
Yeah, I know. And what has it done for them the last quarter of a century? You're right.
Joe's right, though. I mean, that's still something, and that's sad that that's what you're having to hold on to, because it really does mean so little, unless you're just a huge fan of the NFL whose team never wins it. Then it's like, oh, we won the AFC South. Woohoo! But I mean, outside of that, How many Cowboys fans are even like, we're NFC East champions? You win it every year, practically.
Only
When the division was good,
yeah, it was
something
right.
important back when they were winning Super Bowls consistently. Yeah, winning the NFC East means you survive the onslaught, but now it just means that you make the playoffs.
Steven in Virginia, you're on Sikkim 365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, two things. The first one is I'm no expert in Texas football, but I don't know not even just them losing against Baylor, but if they can lose another game on the schedule and Tom Herman remain the coach. And I think that that's a really big deal. But the other point I wanted to say was I lived in St. Louis when the Rams were 1-15 and only beat the 0-16 Lions. Division championships mean something. We never won one once I was like 8 years old. So they mean something if you don't win anything at all. That's all they mean.
But now they've won Super Bowls. Yeah. I mean, of course, it's been a while for the Rams, but they've been.
Care anymore. I will never care about the Rams again.
If you are an expansion team, which we haven't had any, since Jacksonville and Carolina. Is that right? The last expansion teams? If you're an expansion team and you win a division title, Houston Texans, it can mean something. But, it's everything. And you wonder at some point, they'll never say you can win the division and not make the playoffs. Now, there are some times when you see a division like the NFC East just fall apart, and the division will have 2 wins this weekend, unless one of these games between the Eagles and Giants, Cowboys and Redskins ends up in a tie, and that wouldn't be surprising. They have not won twice in a weekend since the season began. Winning the division means something, but we're starting to see even a trend of just going one through whatever. Yeah. Whether it's the NBA or but if you're in a division, it's cyclical. There was a time when the 3rd and 4th place teams in the East were good enough to win other divisions. It's cyclical. It will come back around. It just doesn't seem like it's anytime soon.
I mean, does anybody in the division appear like they even want to win it at the moment? I mean, maybe the Eagles a little bit, but, and that's not taken away from what Joe said, because Joe's got a point. I mean, that's the thing that they can hold on to. It's just, again, sad that that's what they have to hold. It's like, we can win our division and make the playoffs. And on Baylor, Texas probably very well should have lost to Texas Tech in the second game of the year. They end up winning in overtime because Alan Bowman likes to give the ball to the other team, and that's why he's now been benched. But lost that game, or won that game. Then, a 2-point loss to TCU. And then, the 4 overtime loss to Oklahoma that should never even have been an overtime game and should have been a loss regardless. But still, I mean, they're very close. Outside of a 59-3 win over UTEP, every game has been overtime or less than a field goal. And they're 1-2 in those games. So Baylor could hand them their 3rd straight loss. And obviously TCU, OU, Baylor, 3 losses in a row like that. I mean, that you talk about the seat getting really super hot.
Absolutely. And home and these, uniforms, which again, hey, they're not the only, Texas only has a couple of them. They don't have too many of these quirky uniforms or whatever. They pretty much stated what they are. But there's a reason they're doing this. They're rallying the troops. Teams do this. It happens. If it works, it works. But it's not because they have all whites and they're icy whites or whatever. It's interesting. Even one of the comments was they took the names off the back of the uniforms. I think it's because they're trying to get away from individualism, because they have all these big old recruits and stuff. And that's Texas has had problems with that. Not the only one, but they do. I think one fan said that's because they don't want their names being what they're losing.
Well, I tell you.
And it's not the case, but I get it.
It is, a thing to drum up excitement for the fans. You never wear your whites at home, and they're a little bit different than the ones you've worn lately. But it is absolutely a cry for help in some ways, too. Like, it's the security rope that you can pull when you're in trouble. There's only so many things you can do. You can fire coordinators. Well, Tom Herman's already done that. You can start a different guy at quarterback. Well, they're not going to do that because Sam Ehlinger's not the problem. You can shake up your lineup. You can do all these different things, but ultimately you run out of things, and now they're on the uniform card. So it's like they better win this game. They need to win this game. Baylor needs to win this game. So it's going to be 2 teams with a lot riding on this, and I think more riding on it for Texas in the long run, but certainly would be a huge win for Dave Aranda. And if they can come out of this long break and suddenly they're 2-1 and, they've already played West Virginia, they've played Texas now and gotten that out of the way and beating up on Kansas. I mean, they're going to hit the grind, but they might have a lot of confidence if they get the win in Austin.
David Hellman, I agree. If you can go down there and win the game this week, and we don't know if they'll go down there and blow a tire or what, they go down and win this game 2-1, all of a sudden The last 2 or 3 weeks have been frustrating, tough to deal with if you are a fan of Baylor or if you're a part of the team. Heck, it's been hard even when you covered the team because that news we got the night before the afternoon before Houston, that was a kick. La Tech being canceled was a kick because you've been waiting for a game. And then, of course, the week, Sunday before they play Oklahoma State, otherwise you've beaten Kansas and you're 1-2 and maybe you're headed for something like 2-7 or 3-6 or whatever it might be. There's no team that, at least yet, give me a team that you right now would put everything you own on winning the Big 12 title.
No.
Not even the ones who have a head start. Not even the ones who have won a couple of games in the road or beaten Oklahoma or whatever. Not even. Give me what before the last almost 10 years, you could always pretty much say Oklahoma. Some would say Texas because of the logo. In 1 year, they were right. 2009 was the last time they were right. It's been 11 years since they won the Big 12 title. Baylor's won 2 since then. And really last year had one by the throat, but of course did not finish the job. 254-339-1122. We appreciate your calls. We also appreciate the text messages as well. We'll continue with it. Sikkim 365 Radio, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. We had Jack, CJ, and Armstrong all running the mothership. I'm David Smoke. We're glad you're here. We appreciate you. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. How much do you like to smoke a cigar? And if you do, Don Humidor is a great place for you to find out if you don't know where it is or haven't been there. Don Humidor just off Valley Mills in the Town West Shopping Center. Carol and Ashley, Cigar Aficionados, a 48-foot walk-in humidor. If you look online in their website or you go online and you get them on Facebook, you'll see how packed with cigars their 48-foot walk-in humidor is. It's got the glass out. They moved to that new location. It's been a few years now. But they have the elite cigars. I have names I can read out, but I'll tell you, they've got Cohiba, Macanudo, Ashton, Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, Rocky Patel, and others as well. In fact, the number one cigar, the Cuatro Nicaragua as well, the number one cigar in the world, all of that inside their humidor. And along with that, coffee beans with all the flavors and aroma you'd want, and CBD products. If you're one of those that tosses and turns at night and you just need to be able to fall asleep, to be able to maybe save an extra 45 minutes to an hour of rest, they have Vita Dreams, where you take gummies, it allows you to fall asleep a lot quicker, a lot faster, and rest better. It's Don Humidor. Tell them Smokey sent you in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's the heat of the summer, but the real heat is what you're cooking on the grill, smoker, or in the oven. So Waco Custom Marketplace can be your go-to playmaker for summertime grilling. You can't go eat anywhere else? Be your own chef with custom-ordered and cut ribeyes, sirloins, fillets, New York strips with a focus on high-quality beef at a competitive price. Waco Custom Marketplace also has fresh deli cuts with sliced turkey, ham, pepperoni, or corned beef. Waco Custom Marketplace also your home for the freshest seafood in town. salmon, shrimp, mahi-mahi. Great price chicken products, whole birds, tenders, chicken breast, and wings. Waco Custom Marketplace with smoked items unique to Waco. House-made bacon, summer sausage, boudin, hot links, and German sausage. Every seasoning for every occasion, grilling, baking, or frying. Your hometown grocery store with canned goods, pasta, fresh baked bread, buns, chips, sauce, condiments to pickles, charcoal and lighter fluid, cold beer and wine, best kolaches in Waco, mouth-watering cinnamon rolls, and here for the community every single day, helping you avoid the long lines in crowded stores, serving quality products to the Waco community. Go online for the weekly value boxes. Family owned and operated Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We have discussed Baylor, Texas. We will continue to do that throughout the week. Also, guest of the game, of those who have played in the game, will have that throughout the week. Also, players. Did I see that? Or did I see that in the release that Taylor sent out? Will there be players this week on Wednesday like there normally is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have some of the players. First time we've heard from them, and it seems like a month, and their thoughts about the game coming up against Texas. Now, we've discussed the Cowboys have put out some stats, and yes, they were awful. To me, and I've got a couple of notes about what also now is starting to come out, some chirping among players about the coaches or leaks or whatever. Go look in the mirror. But yes, if the coaching staff is clueless, and I thought this was a Super Bowl winning coach in Mike McCarthy, all of a sudden you start having that, and that's a problem. We'll get to that in a minute with reports from Jane Slater and also with Mike Fisher, among others. But Arizona was trying to run out the clock. And Kenyon Drake goes, whatever, 70?
Yeah,
60, 50, whatever it was.
78 or whatever the heck
I
it was.
turned around to go get something, and I look, and he's running into the end zone.
Yeah.
That's a team that they're trying to run the ball between the tackles, and you let him give Arizona credit, give Drake credit. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, the whole night was
with the offensive
69 yards.
69. Here's what I'm going to say, and I hope people don't take this wrong. Cowboys, welcome to the real world of quarterbacks getting hurt. Teams have this happen all the time. Now, the Cowboys have had Romo go down a couple of times. They've had injuries. We know that. But they have been incredibly fortunate, despite Mickey's stats last week about how many times they've had quarterbacks get hurt. No, they've been really lucky. They had the mud, the slugs, whatever you had in the early 2000s after Aikman. But you had Aikman for a decade. You had Staubach for a decade. You had Danny White for a decade. You've had good quarterbacks along the way, Meredith and Morton. This is really what a lot of teams go through. Philadelphia won a Super Bowl without Wentz.
Well, so the Cowboys lost Romo the one year and had Castle and Whedon, and it was a completely lost year pretty much because of that.
Is that the year that Bum Phillips was fired when they were 1-7?
No.
Okay.
That was after that. That was just that was the year. So they just had nothing at quarterback, and they couldn't do anything about it. So then that inspired them to use a draft pick on a quarterback. It wasn't an early one. It was a 4th-round pick, and it was Dak Prescott. And then Romo promptly gets hurt in the preseason, and they luck into the fact that the 4th-round guy is their future.
Yes,
I mean,
but teams in the NFL, we see it all the time. lose quarterbacks. San Francisco lost Garoppolo for a short amount of time.
Look at the Colts and Andrew Luck.
Exactly.
I mean,
it happens. They have been incredibly fortunate, and now you have this offensive line that has just been splattered. It looked like that was the next 10 years. Remember when Jerry said this about RG3 when he was good the rookie year? We got to deal with him for the next decade. Well, he never really was any good again. And for a lot of reasons. Some of it himself and some of it the Redskins. They now have lost a left tackle, guard, center, right tackle, all of them who are, if they would have played 10, 12 years, would have been a part of maybe a Ring of Honor. Some may in the Hall of Fame. And they're all gone. And Zach Martin has the concussion last night. Thank God it's just a concussion, although I'm not making light of that. They're going through that year when they had 27 defensive linemen, and they also ended up being really bad.
Yeah, but you also, I mean, with Zach Martin, that could be a week. It could be 6 weeks. I mean, concussions are unpredictable. There's new protocols now, so they don't know how long they're going to be without him. And it's just, when you hear these things about the players starting to chirp, and it's been something that's been a problem in that locker room for even back in Jason Garrett's time, is where they act like they've won something, but they've not won something.
They haven't done a damn thing. Excuse my French. They've had some division championships that were legitimate. They've had teams that were 13-3. Marion Barber in that team, and what year it was, 2007. T.O. and Romo. They've had 11-5s, and it seemed like others. But this is a culture. So here's my point, Craig. You have a team that starts to lose. And now they're starting to leak out that the coaching staff doesn't know what they're doing. That's even worse. That's, to me, even worse, because that's what we have now, reports that there's leaks that they're not really preparing or they're not knowing where they're supposed to be, and now the players could be pointing the finger at the coaching staff.
I mean, it's not good, yeah. I don't know if you're asking me a question or not on that, but, yeah, I mean, it's as bad as it can get. I mean, apparently, if the guys are fighting in the locker room, I mean, all the stuff about the quarterbacks and injuries and all that, I mean, like, that is what it is. I'm not going to pile on too much because, that's just what they're facing right now. But, the locker room stuff is certainly, how could this possibly get worse? Well, you could lose your starting quarterback. Okay, well, that's happened. And now your players are a handful of games into this first season with a guy who you were just sure was the answer to the missing pieces that you felt like you still had on this team. And it turns out that they're even worse than the old guy was, who you got finally tired of because he couldn't get you past a certain point. So there's a lot of egos in that locker room. There's a lot of big money contracts in that locker room. There's a lot of pride in that locker room. There's a lot of expectations, but there's not a lot to show for it right now. And so if there's already infighting, then I don't see this season really turning around and getting that much better. That's going to be a big challenge for Mike McCarthy to have to figure out and make sure that this team doesn't just completely, fracture with as long as there is to go still left in the season.
Here's some quotes. Jane Slater, she does a great job. She knows what she's doing. One coaching staff, totally unprepared. They don't teach. They don't have any sense of adjusting on the fly. Another, they aren't good at their jobs. Here's from Mike Fisher. They don't teach, have any sense of adjusting on the fly. So there's the same player barking. Totally unprepared. Now, here's something that I noticed that last night, and I was listening to Mike McCarthy, and he made the comment that he felt like they had their best practice since he's been there. He made a comment about something about having their best practice week since they've been there. Well, Mike Fisher in his story that used to be with us quite a bit on Fridays, I miss having him on, he's saying that's a lie. That he's getting the feedback, but no, they're not having these great weeks of practice, and that's one of the big lies.
The Cowboys went with a coach. They kind of went the old, what the NHL does all the time, or the NBA. They rehashed a coach. And let's look at the last run of Mike McCarthy before he got there. He has one of the most dynamic quarterbacks, if not the most dynamic quarterback in the league before Patrick Mahomes, in Aaron Rodgers, a guy who can win a game at any time almost by willing his team to victory and doing some crazy stuff. He falls out with him. They can't win. Bad defense, offense all over the place. Players barking at the main player barking at him was Aaron Rodgers. And he lays out for a year. He says, look, I've watched all this stuff. I've got this newfangled offense. I kind of have a new grasp on all these other things. But he doesn't go and hire any new coaches, anybody who's new and young. He hires Mike Nolan, who was the guy who hired him as the offensive coordinator in San Francisco. So that's a buddy hire. Then he brings in Jim Tomsula, another buddy hire. And all these people on defense, instead of bringing in people who are going to kind of innovate and change, he just kind of brought in guys like him who were on the beach last year, and it doesn't seem like they have all that much cohesiveness inside the staff.
What has Demarcus Lawrence done this year?
Not a thing.
What has Zeke done?
I'll tell you what Demarcus Lawrence has done. He's talked.
Yeah, he has. And Zeke, of course, and listen, he's a fantastic player, but right now, this year, no, he's not.
No.
I thought last night they would feed the ball to him 25-plus times, and he'd have a huge game. Yes, the turnovers is something that's like a career, like Rod Carew, Tony Gwynn, or Pete Rose going into a 1-for-30 slump. It happens. But he's now, I mean, that was like, you're kidding me. But he didn't do it once. He did it twice. He's done it 5 times. And this is when they need him more than ever before. How much more money did Dak just make last night because of that performance by the offense? Dalton, the offense. How much more value does he have now, today? And he didn't even play last night.
And he's got pretty much what he wants, and he's got the Cowboys over a barrel because the salary cap's going to go down. They can't afford to lose him. Yeah, broken leg or not, he's fine.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this team, this group of players, you had Demarcus Lawrence and guys like that, basically in so many ways pin their lack of success on their coaches. Last year prior, I mean, that's why Jason Garrett was eventually ran out of town, right? Was because he couldn't be the guy to get them over the hump. And, the players eventually hitting that same wall kind of got fed up. And I don't know, there were some, maybe not the majority, but there were people that were of the mindset that the missing piece to this team was a coach. Was it the right coach, the right coordinators, the right guys calling the plays? And this is worse than when Jason Garrett was there. They've actually taken a step backwards with a new coaching staff. So ultimately, maybe it's not the coaching, maybe it's the players themselves. But I know they're making too much money to feel like they can do any wrong, Demarcus Lawrence in particular. But, it's not the coaches out there just getting drilled. It's their responsibility to prepare those guys. If they're not preparing them, that's a problem. But even with what preparation they're doing, it's not like the players are executing either.
All right, so here are the free agent additions they had. 254-339-1122. If you're a Baylor fan, yes, we have discussed Baylor, Texas. We'll get into more of that. But the Cowboys last night humiliated, which only means the way they do it, they'll come back, win on the road, get settled in, although Pittsburgh's in a couple of weeks. Free agent additions. Early on, this looked like a brilliant pickup. Everson Griffin. Is it now?
It doesn't fit the defense and hasn't done much.
He got paid, right?
He has a sack, and he's on a sweetheart deal for them. But
Gerald McCoy
got hurt in the first practice.
Don Terry Poe
might as well have gotten hurt in the first practice. He plays, but he's not been effective at all.
Andy Dalton.
Oh gosh, it's been bad.
It was so great last week, but
it was.
Man, it didn't take very long.
It looked like he could handle and manage the game and be a little bit more than just a bus driver.
Speaking of running the wall, that's all the Bengals did with him and Marvin Lewis. I mean, they maybe make the playoffs, never win their division, out in the first round. That was the story of them. So, I mean, he's basically the perfect quarterback for the Cowboys.
His first 4 or 5 years in the league, he was a good quarterback.
He made 3 Pro Bowls. Aldon Smith.
That's actually been the only player on the defense that you can write good things about.
Clinton Dix.
Didn't make the team.
Zerline.
He's fine.
He's been good. He kicked a couple of game-winning and a couple of field goals that tied the game up. Cameron Irving.
Hasn't played.
Blake Bell.
I mean, for a backup tight end, he's fine.
But Darryl Worley got burned.
That's the worst addition. That one right there.
Darryl Worley?
He's the one who, if you want to throw it deep, throw it at Darryl Worley. You're going to score an 80-yard touchdown.
And they did last night. Was that the one? By the way, Christian Kirk, A&M's Christian Kirk, he had the little, like almost a shovel pass. And then the dagger was the one that put him up like 21-0, I believe. I don't know the score at the time. But that was that was an incredible catch to make the catch. And then goes 80, whatever it was. He had a big night. Kyler Murray has never lost at AT&T Stadium. I know people get tired of hearing that, but it's true. Mm-hmm. He's played more than one game there. And you know what's amazing? I got to say this. My concern about him was his height. And I would fail with this one. Not as a high school player, he was as good as anyone I've ever seen. As a college player, he was as good as you could possibly be. But as an NFL player, I didn't know about that. And with Kingsbury's being, that doesn't mean they're going to go 10-6, but he's better in the NFL than I thought he would be.
He's better than anybody thought he would be. Nobody other than probably his father predicted that Kyler would go and do what he's done. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to see a stat of, just the – I wonder how many guys have won a high school football game, a college football game, and an NFL game in the same stadium. But Kyler Murray's done that. Not only that, but Allen had one of those state championships had to be at AT&T, right? Probably, I would think. I don't remember exactly because he hasn't actually been there for a long time now. But he won a Big 12 title in AT&T Stadium last year. If they ever get the Super Bowl again, hell, he might be in that game too, winning a title at AT&T Stadium. I wouldn't bet against him, but there were a lot of questions. But the main question was his height. You could never, ever, ever, if you watched him, doubt his arm. Didn't matter how big he was or not. You cannot doubt that arm. That's a live arm, and it's easy to see. So that was never in question. His accuracy was never in question. His running ability was never in question. It was just, can he take hits? Well, he's smart enough to slide. He learned before RG3 ever did that, hey, you can slide and save yourself a lot of trouble, and he's been able to utilize that. But he's super fast. Not a lot of guys in the NFL, even with the NFL speed, are still as fast as him out in the open field, much less when he's juking and making you get faked out or whatever. He's a great player. The only thing is his height, and that shows you that maybe that is looked at as too big of a deal.
The height is only when you get people around you. Well, they have been able to get him space. Now, if he gets a bad pass rush, I don't care if you're 6'5", you're a problem.
Well, yeah, and think about that arm if he was a major league outfielder here in a couple of years.
No, that was brought up too.
I would think that, had he decided to go and play Major League Baseball, that right now he has that kind of Mookie Betts type arm where, like, if you're going to throw it, if you're going to catch it in the outfield, you better not run.
Did you see Mookie Betts make that catch in Game 7?
I know. I'm working through it.
That's tonight, by the way. Speaking of which,
therapy.
Game 1 tonight, the Rays and also the Dodgers. Something's going to stop here. Rays have never won it. They've been there once in 2009, whatever year it was.
Lost to the Phillies.
Lost to Philadelphia. 2008 to Philadelphia. And then the Dodgers have not won the World Series since the famous Kirk Gibson hit the home run off Dennis Eckersley in 1988 against the Bash Brothers. In 1988. They've been back. So someone tonight breaks a drought. Tampa Bay ever, and then the Dodgers, it's been 32 years.
We've seen all the Blue Bloods win World Series lately. We've seen the Yankees, we've seen the Red Sox, we've seen the Cubs, we've seen the Cardinals. We've seen all these teams in recent years, the last 10, 15 years, win titles, and really the only one that I can think of that's still got that weight on their shoulders is the Dodgers, and they've done everything possible with their payroll to try and win a World Series, but here come the lowly Rays with their low payroll and their lack of fan support, and they're right there. It's two completely different teams. It's the big money Hollywood glitz and glamour West Coast superstar names versus the no names on the East Coast and the state of Florida with very little glitz and glamour. So this will be interesting. If the Rays go on to win, I'd be happy for my family members, but as a Rangers fan, that would kind of hurt a little bit. There's another team that is stacking up World Series before you have been able to do that yourself.
Game 1 tonight, Dodgers and Rays, and it's up in Arlington, right up the street at the Globe Life Field in Arlington. Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. I mentioned yesterday, North Texas quarterback Jason Bean came in. His team was down, went off in a win against Middle Tennessee State. Today he was honored as the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award winner. It seemed like SMU has somebody on there every week. Let me tell you one of the players in college football as we take the break here. I like Isaiah Spiller. I think he's big time, the running back at A&M. We'll see if he gets 18 to 20 carries a game. They had the win against Mississippi State. But then you look around the country, and, of course, we know that Texas fuels everyone's rosters. Not that others don't, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Louisiana, whatever, Georgia. Bo Corrales, North Carolina from Georgetown High School. Ryan O'Keefe, wide receiver from Round Rock High School at UCF. Craig, you mentioned UCF. Fort Worth, Jalen Robinson from All Saints Episcopal in Fort Worth, wide receiver UCF. Jalen Waddle from Houston Episcopal High School, Alabama. Memphis, Taj Washington played at Marshall High School. These are all who were finalists, nominees, who are a part of the ballot this week. And the North Texas quarterback, Jason Bean, who was at Lake Ridge High School in Mansfield. I don't remember him, and I guess it was right before Midway started playing them as they did. Remember the game up in the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, I don't remember either. I remember the Cotton Bowl and waiting around for 4 hours to call a quarter of a football game.
That was a nightmare,
That was a waste of a night, but no, I don't remember Jason Bean either, but he's the new name at North Texas and their new starting quarterback, and he had an incredible game. I know they don't get a lot of eyeballs, but his performance was one worth watching. And, you know, it just kind of shuffles every year, Texas players, where they go, who the hot schools are. But, you know, it is cool this year to see a Bo Corrales at a North Carolina or a couple of guys at UCF. And obviously Alabama's usually got one guy from Texas on offense that's a pretty big player, and that guy's Jalen Waddle this year, who's an incredible star. So, yeah, it's good to see all the Texas players around the country on offense. It's an offensive award who are doing their thing.
All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from China Springs Brian Bell, coming off their first loss of the year to Salado. And then we'll hear from Ray Biles of Lorena, coming off the very impressive win against McGregor. At 5 o'clock, Troy record-shattering running back Zach Robotchik will join us. Also today, David Hellman a little bit early at 4:45, Mack Rhoades around 4:20, and much more to come. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they've got the kickoff savings event continuing on right now. And they've been having deals throughout the pandemic, going all the way back to the springtime when everything first started to get kind of shut down. Richard Carr, like many other businesses out there, had to, get their ducks in a row and figure out how things were going to work, but they've figured it out perfectly. You can stop by their showroom and check out all the great savings, or they can bring a test drive to you. And if you do show up at the showroom, well, everything's disinfected and they've got your safety in mind as well. But you won't even be thinking about your safety when you walk in. You'll be thinking about all the great deals and all the money you can save. And right now you can get a smooth, quiet ride in a first-class interior matched with power and durability with the GMC Sierra. During Richard Carr's kickoff savings event, qualified buyers will score $9,000 off a 2020 GMC Sierra at Richard Carr Motors. You can also get $10,000 off on the Buick 3-row Enclave, an amazing value in a luxury SUV. During the kickoff savings event, all 2020 3-row Buick Enclaves are, $10,000 off. You can also get the Buick Encore, which is versatile and nimble, for only $19,900. And maybe you're ready to step up and go up a little bit higher in the price range because you want that ultimate luxury and style that you get with a Cadillac brand. We'll let Richard Carr bring the Cadillac experience to you with an XT4, XT5, with a full-size 7-passenger Cadillac XT6, and you can save $2,000. 2020 Cadillac XT4 started only $34,690 at Richard Carr Cadillac. It's the kickoff savings event at Richard Carr. Score huge savings right now on all vehicles in stock, the deals that I mentioned and many more that I did not. Go check out the deals for yourself in person at Highway 6 and Imperial Exit, or check out more information on richardcarr.com.
Listen, in the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people moving in from out of state to Waco thanks to Chipper and JoJo. And while we welcome these new citizens, they unfortunately brought some of their bad habits with them. Hi, Jay here from Pickup Outfitters, and you know what I'm talking about. Naked trucks. You'd think everyone moved here from McNewtville, but we shouldn't judge them, we should help them. For example, when you see a recent transplant truck from a less civilized state like California, instead of saying, "Your truck is disgusting, your bed is exposed, get a bed cover on that truck, buddy," that's a bit harsh. Instead, try something like, in Texas, it's not polite to drive around with your bed exposed. Maybe you should check out the excellent selection of bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And then if they refuse, you can say, "Well, I hear New Mexico's a nice state." Let's help our new neighbors and let them know that truck nudity is not okay. Let them know about Pickup Outfitters of Waco and send them to our website, createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas.
They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trust, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance in McLennan County takes pride in backing Central Texas football. Our agents would like to help with your insurance needs. Call 254-772-8090 for an agent near you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Bird Culture Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culture Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culture Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new, pre-owned Bird Culture Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culture Ford.
Hi, this is China Spring football coach Brian Bell. You're listening to Sikkim 365 Radio, your home for the best high school football coverage in the state of Texas.
This segment with China Spring Cougars football coach Brian Bell is sponsored by Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, First National Bank of Central Texas, Lance Donaldson eXp Realty, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine.
Brian, it's the first loss of the year. You guys have been running it. And I thought when I saw the score pop up early, of course it's early, but if you get on top of Salado, which sometimes gives you an advantage with what they do, but they just eventually do what they do. How did your team bounce back so far since the loss on Friday?
Oh, kids are resilient, and you let something bother you too much, then it's going to affect you down the road. And our kids played hard Friday night. Salado beat us. And it is what it is. We could have played better, and the ball could have bounced our way a little bit more. But all being said, we got to move on, and we have the Robinson Rockets this week, and we got to go 1-0.
Robinson and China Spring have played a ton of times. They're struggling. There's no question about that. It's still something because it's a rivalry game. You got to make sure you're focused on what you have to do yourself and worry about you.
Absolutely. I think over the past 5 or 6 years, we've gotten the opportunity to scrimmage Robinson, but we never actually got the opportunity to play them. And so I think this will be an exciting game for our kids. I know they know a lot of the guys at Robinson, and I know we get to play them in other sports like basketball and baseball every year. So it'll be neat to get to play them in football again.
The chance to win a district championship, because Salado has now beaten both you and Conley, might be out the window. Do you still have the carrot, though, because of seeding, because of what it might mean in the postseason?
Every game matters, and you want to win every game you want to play in. And so the way seeding works, second place is a lot better than third place. And so it'd definitely be more advantageous for us to finish this thing out strong. It's going to be tough, but we're going to do the best we can.
You and I had been talking about what Alan Hare, and you have great respect for what he does, and so does everyone else, about now that you played them. You've seen them, but then you played them. How difficult is it to prepare for that type of team with what they do on offense?
Playing Salado is tough, but playing in Salado is even tougher. And I think just the setup that they have, and they've got a unique stadium and unique things that they do at their home stadium. And so it's tough to play them alone, but it's even tougher to play them at their place. And so they've got an incredible home field advantage there in Salado. And Coach Hare is doing a great job. And like you said, it's one thing to practice it, but another thing to actually get out in the field and see it. And that was the first time for our kids and our coaches to actually go against it, and myself included. So it'll be interesting to see the kind of playoff run they make because they're a good football team.
You lose the game, but obviously you still have a heck of a football team. What was it that came out of that game that you felt good about, that you feel like maybe was even something you did better?
No, I thought our kids played tough, and I know they put up 28 points, but I thought our defense played a heck of a football game, and they rallied and made a lot of tackles. They converted some big third downs against us, but all in all, I was really proud of the physicality our kids brought to the table and the toughness they displayed for 4 quarters. on Friday night. I mean, that's stuff you can't coach, and that you either got it or you don't, and our kids had it, and so that was very encouraging.
Hi, this is Ray Miles, head football coach at Marina High School, and you're listening to Sikkim 365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This segment with Lorena Leopards football coach Ray Biles is sponsored by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Southwest Sports Medicine.
Coach, a huge win for you over McGregor, 41-14, and this district is tough. It can go either way each week. What was the key for you this week in building such a big lead and riding the momentum in that game to beat a really good McGregor team?
Well, I thought one of the things we did was we played defense this week. A couple of weeks ago, Troy shredded us, and I thought our kids came out prepared. Lament is a good running back, big, strong kid, and McDaniel throw the ball very, very well. So they've got a two-headed monster at McGregor. They've been hanging a lot of points on everybody. But, we challenged our defense, and we got to get some stops, some takeaways, and things like that. And then after the first half, I think we held them 4 first downs in the second half and kind of turned the ball off. So I would say that part of it. In that kicking game, we had a huge night with some punt returns. Had one return for a touchdown. David Bowder had a long run for a touchdown, and another one, Drew Britton ran one down to the 2-yard line, 40-something return. So we had some big plays in the kicking game that set us up for short scores and a couple of takeaways, and that's huge when you flip the field.
This week you have Yo, and we'll get to that in a second. How much did the bye week coming off of Troy, where you said you had, you knew that you had to work on your defense, how much did that help going into McGregor?
Well, I think one of the things it does is you don't have the pressure of, we've got to be prepared for somebody Friday night. So, we could actually stop and look at us and evaluate, where are we as a football team? What do we need to fix? What do we need to clean up? What do we need to, the things with personnel groupings or, So it gave us a chance to do some fundamental things that you don't normally get a chance to do because you just don't have time when you're trying to prepare for the next guy down the road. So from that standpoint, we did some fundamental things, just kind of slowed the thing down a little bit during the week and kind of got their legs back under them. And it paid off for us. I thought the kids performed very, very well Friday night.
This week you've got, they've played mostly close games this year, save that Rockdale game, which was kind of weird. In it, they just came off a 21-20 loss in overtime to Troy. What do you see from the Yeomen this year?
Well, as usual, they've got skilled kids. They've got athletes all across the board, guys that can run and make big plays, and that's always a concern because, as a coach, you want to make them snap the ball again. You don't want to give them a home run. So, we've got some things that we're going to have to, take care of there because Spikes is a huge receiver. He can be gone in a heartbeat. And, little quarterback's doing a great job of getting the ball out. He's very accurate and a good thrower. And they've got a couple of good backs in there that can run the ball. Defensively, they're very solid. They're going to play things very well. They're well coached. Coach Bashir and his guys do a super job down there. We're going to have to go in there and play well to win in Cameron. That's a tough place to walk in and win. So, our kids understand what's at stake, and it should be a big ball game, but we've got to be prepared. We can't make mistakes. We're going to have to go in and play a clean game.
Central Texas traditions run deep, all the way to the vehicles we drive. That's why folks trust Alan Samuels. During Alan Samuels Jeep Adventure Days, get employee pricing for all on new 2020 Gladiator Sport and no payments for 90 days. Plus, the tougher-than-nails 2020 Jeep Renegade, 0 for 72, no payments for 90 days, or up to $6,250 in cash and subprime offers. Trusted. That's Alan Samuels, your friend in the car business.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let
Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Have you tried a do-it-yourself program to lose weight? You may not know that in a typical do-it-yourself program, a quarter of the weight you lose is due to muscle breakdown and loss. With COVID harming obese and overweight patients, being at ideal body weight is more important now than ever. Over 30 physicians in Central Texas, tired of seeing patients fail at losing weight themselves, opened MuscleWise Nutrition. This is a coach-managed weight loss program that targets fat and spares muscle. The 4 MuscleWise locations have taken off over 19,000 pounds from Texas dieters in the last few years. The combination of coaching and weekly body composition analysis to target the fat loss are the keys to success. The coaches teach you how to eat and live a healthy lifestyle. Email Sikkim365 at musclewisenutrition.com today, and the coaches will contact you about their free educational seminars. Do not wait. Email today and start MuscleWise at Sikkim365 at musclewisenutrition.com.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here's Dalton. Under some pressure. Shovels it forward. And Zeke fumbles the football. Then Jordan Phillips came up with the football for Arizona.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour. Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, at around 4:15, 4:20. David Hellman, normally Tuesdays at 5, today at 4:40, 4:45. And then also today, Zach Robotchik, running back at Troy, who's nearly 6,000 yards now in his career, 93 touchdowns. The overtime win against Yo, he scored what turned out to be the game-winning touchdown. Yo tied it, it appeared, but they missed the extra point, a huge win for Troy, and that district is crazy. The only team that really right now is kind of out of it, although they're still capable if you're not careful, is Caldwell, and that's who Troy plays this week. But there's going to be 2 teams in that district, whether it's Academy or if it's Yo or if it's Troy or it's Rockdale or it's Lorena and McGregor. Isn't that all of them in the same one? Someone's going to be left out in that really, really, really good district. David Irving, I saw where he had been cleared to come back. He had an issue. He liked to smoke pot. In the NFL now, that's no big deal. So when I saw that he was cleared to come back, on the same time that Randy Gregory was cleared to come back, who was feisty last week in practice, and he didn't play. He's not ready yet. He's got to get himself, I guess, in football.
He still has another couple weeks before.
Okay. But David Irving, I saw that. I said, well, he'll be back with Dallas. They need him at defensive line. He'll be back with the Cowboys this week. But
no, he signed with the Raiders, and I don't know if the Cowboys have enough problems in the locker room. Part of the reason the Cowboys didn't put up with his nonsense like they have with Randy Gregory is that David Irving never really bought in. I mean, like all the little team things that they do, like position group dinners and stuff like that, he would skip out on that, or particularly Tyrone Crawford, Demarcus Lawrence always host something, and he would never show up to it, or they'd say, "Hey, we're gonna have a position group this or this meeting. Come early," and he was always late to it, and so everybody else is doing one thing and he's not. So eventually, his teammates kind of were like, "Well, we're done with him." As we're Randy Gregory, every opportunity he's had to be in the building, he's always done everything he could, except he couldn't stop smoking pot.
Well, you could do that now, right? So his career should be kickstarted again, right? Is that right?
We'll see.
From Jeff Bean on Twitter, when Jane Slater put up the note about the leaks, it was totally unprepared, the coaching staff, whatever. They don't teach. They don't have a sense of adjusting. Whatever happened to Chris Richard?
I don't know where he is now. I'm not sure. Let me look him up.
Well, he was out when everyone else is, right? I mean, when Jason Garrett was gone, and again, another guy that everyone thought should have been the head coach, and then the defense started to fall apart a little bit, right? The University of Michigan has put in a stay-in-place order
with nobody right
for
now.
undergraduates on campus, but it will not affect or impact athletics.
Gee, I wonder how that works. I think that's a Harbaugh thing. I'm just going to say.
The county health department issued a stay-in-place order on Tuesday for Michigan undergraduate students beginning immediately because of a rise in cases. But the order will not impact athletic activity at this time. The football team travels to Minnesota on Saturday when the Big Ten starts this week. Despite the stay-in-place order running until November 3rd, the health department said any students who are associated with intercollegiate varsity sports may attend practices and competitions. Athletic medical staff must be present during the entire process. A staff member actively supervises the COVID-19 mitigation. It's called money, right?
Yes.
What, the football team practicing while the students are sent away, basically? Yeah, that's money. Yeah, that's absolutely money. That's what this is all about. I mean, that's why they're playing the games. They're not playing for school pride and for, S's and giggles. They're playing for money, and they're playing to try to have some sense of normalcy. So, I mean, it's not surprising that the rules are always and have always been different for non-athletes versus athletes on campuses. And you know what? If you want to stop yourself from having to cut more sports or cut back on classes or whatever the case may be, you need that money flowing in, and that only comes through playing the game of football. So, yeah, it's not surprising that the student athletes would have a bit different set of rules than the regular students. And I hate saying regular students because it just sounds like degrading in a way to me because they're not athletes, but I don't know how else to phrase it. They're regular students. They're not athlete students. But, yeah, I mean, it's part of the deal. It's part of this COVID era.
I saw this last night, and initially I thought this was COVID-related. I don't think it is unless there's an update, but Adam Rittenberg, among others who cover college football nationally, that running back Journey Brown at Penn State could miss the season with a medical condition discovered during the offseason. We've seen that a couple of different times when he had almost 900 yards last year and 12 touchdowns. We've seen this because of the testing of what we have or what they go through with COVID, that something else might be found.
Yeah, I mean, and they go through pretty rigorous physicals to play college athletics anyway, and they do every year, and so it's not surprising that sometimes you do find something that is outside the realm of a normal sports injury.
The statement, Penn State said Brown from Pennsylvania had 200 yards against Memphis in the Cotton Bowl, receiving treatment for an undisclosed condition, and that he did consider skipping the year back on October the 1st, then decided he wanted to play one more year before moving on to the NFL. So he is right now in limbo as whether or not he plays for Penn State and James Franklin and the Nittany Lions this year. I asked earlier about the players from the Cowboys signed as free agents. Who do they now regret signing as extensions?
Demarcus Lawrence comes up to mind right now.
Jalen Smith?
Jalen Smith. I mean, those are...
But they looked so brilliant when they did it. Remember?
Not really, no. I mean, they really didn't, though. They just did it as PR as much as anything. I mean, I think they pulled the trigger far too quickly. The Jalen Smith thing was a feel-good story. The Demarcus Lawrence was basically getting him to shut up and obviously not thinking out, well, what happens if we sign him to this deal and then his play drops off, which it has. But that's the risk that you run, I mean... I've seen so many different free agents, sign with other teams, and they get their money and they're not the same. And Demarcus Lawrence hasn't quite been the same versus what the expectations are. His expectations are higher because he signed that deal. He should know that. And I think he's acting out a little bit because things aren't suddenly all kosher and great and grand anymore. And people are actually saying, well, okay, now you're making the money, so we can take out the excuse of you not making what you think you're worth. Now we're judging you based on what the league says you're worth, and you're not worth what you're getting paid. So, I think just for the Cowboys, they've got a lot of questions, obviously. And, yes, certainly you could go back and say, well, I wish we hadn't done that. But have any of those deals, alone sent them into what they're doing right now? No. I mean, it's as much the coaching and the playing as it is bad deals or bad contracts.
That's been a Jerry Jones thing. We know we've mentioned that they've extended Miles Austin, Jay Ratliff, a couple of others, not just those, but others. But at the time, but the Jalen Smith thing was a feel-good story, as much a business decision as anything else outside of football. And good for him because he of course, suffered that horrific injury that maybe didn't ever going to walk again. But now you look up, and here you are again, you're stuck. And you're going to have to pay Dak $30+ million, whether it's a franchise tag or what next year. Zeke, you regret that one?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet, no. I mean, I think that one's fine, but...
Okay, do you regret doing it when you did because he was going to hold out, or he did hold out?
I mean, he did. I mean, I don't know if there was anything that...
I still think he's a fantastic running back. The second fumble, by the way, was it the second one when he kind of lunged into somebody? And that's kind of what he's been able to do. If he loses that ability to remain physical as a running back, if he starts to lose that ability, which is one of the strengths of him, then he starts the trend downhill. He could run for 200 yards this week against Washington, who knows? But that's one of the more powerful things about him is he delivers a blow as much as he takes one.
Yeah, and I don't regret Amari Cooper yet. I don't regret Zeke yet. I think that the Demarcus Lawrence thing looks really bad now, especially given the back half of last year and this year where he's been non-existent. And then the Jalen Smith one. They didn't need to do that. And Jerry needs to get to a point where he can be like the Patriots or the Steelers or the organizations that don't find themselves in these problems where they love their players, but they're not in love with their players. And I think Jerry falls in love a little bit too quickly and like, okay, we got to get this guy locked up. Well, they make new players every year. It's called the draft. There's a whole new crop of them. And if you get really good at that, then you don't have to worry about signing extensions. And then you hold at least a little bit of leverage. If a guy wants to leave and he's out of your price range, like you did with Byron Jones, you let him go. But you don't have to sign everybody.
Do you regret not re-signing Byron Jones?
I mean, right now it looks pretty damn bad.
Yeah, but not too many people were in favor of that at the time. Like, had they done that, then I think they would have gotten a lot of criticism for re-signing him. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I don't think too many people were ultra in love with him. And I think last year, most everybody just figured it was his last year with the team anyways. And there's kind of a foregone conclusion of something's got to give, and he's the likely one to not get his money. But, yeah, I mean, I think you maybe regret the DeMarcus Lawrence deal a little bit based on what we've seen. Jalen Smith probably did that earlier than you needed to do. And now those guys are locked down for the next 4 or 5 years. So it comes a point in time when you're going to regret that a lot more than you do right now. The problem for them right now is not these contracts. It's the players stink. And the coaches stink, and the whole thing stinks. Yep. And there's nothing that a new contract or an undone contract is really going to do to change any of that. So, yeah, I mean, it's just another problem that might potentially come for them down the road, but they need to figure out their main problems on the field right now.
Mack Rhoades, David Hellman, Zach Robotchik, John McClain. I got a question to put out. I'll put it up on the board. You could also text us, 254-339-1122. A singular question. What player, Baylor football players Saturday, are you more interested in watching how they perform after the layoff against Texas? Who is that? 254-339-1122. We'll dig into that as well on Sikkim 365 Radio. David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and I'm Craig Smoke to my right as well. We have Jack Armstrong and CJ, a band of brothers with us as well inside as one of the great movies. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Pickup Outfitters, where you can help dice up your pickup truck. If you don't have a bed cover on your pickup truck, Pickup Outfitters can surely be the place that can help you out for many different reasons. One, because of what they offer with anything that's inside their showroom or you buy from them, they will always give you a lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance on bed covers from retractable, hard folding, one-piece lids, hard and soft roll-up, removable, paint to match at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com. Bumpers, grill guards, steps, all of what you need when it comes. Like when you open up a car, a big pickup truck, and you have the step pull out. If you don't have one of those and you want one, you need a boost to get up to wherever you need to get inside the pickup truck, they can help you with that as well. And Always lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance. They can help match the colors of your truck with whatever you need for the bed covers. Lay in and spray in bed liners as well to help from the bed getting beat up. And if you have a pickup truck that you want it, you just throw a bunch of stuff, whether it's wood or dirt or grass or concrete or bricks or whatever, and you don't care, that's fine. But if you want to protect the bed of the pickup truck, you can surely do that as well with Pickup Outfitters, helping you with lay-in and spray-in bed liners, the bed covers, the bump guards, the grill guards, the bumpers, and much more. 220 Lake Air Drive. Tell Jay Errett Smokey sent you at Pickup Outfitters, createacommotion.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
How often have you said it's time to get in shape every day, every week, every month, maybe for as long as you can remember? How about starting today? I promise if you'll just join Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness now, you'll thank me later. Hi, this is David Smoke, offering a variety of 40 group exercise classes every single week, including boot camp on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:15, plus spin, body shaping, Pilates, yoga, and bar. And oh, there's a free kids club as well. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness open Monday through Thursday, 5 to 10, Friday 5 to 8, Saturday and Sunday 7 to 7, and personal trainers Christy London and Randall Court. World-class tennis facility with pros Britt Coleman and Joe Rosa with lessons, camps, and special events. Spacious and clean workout rooms, locker room for men and women, both with a whirlpool and sauna, and now there's touchless bottle filling stations. No intimidation, tremendous camaraderie, an entirely new atmosphere, and yes, you can do this, but you have to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Here we go, 4:18 is the time. Every Tuesday at around 4:20, Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics, Baylor University, joins us. Last week it was early. Last week was different. This week seems to be at least right now, a lot of sunshine and a possibility of a game on Saturday with Texas. Mack, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Does it appear as if everything's all clear, also knowing that nothing is ever all clear in this day and age of COVID?
Well, we certainly feel like we're in a better position than we were a week ago. And, I'll speak to the last test, the Sunday test, where we tested all of our football student athletes again and all of our football staff. And that test yielded 0 positives. So, we feel good. We feel like, because of the way we reacted, and certainly grateful to our health and wellness staff, the immediacy with the way in the way we reacted, that we were able to break the chain of transmission. So, feel good about playing this upcoming Saturday.
Was in the end the false negative? Do you feel like that's the pinpoint, or did you end up, because of Nick Saban's story, that the false positives, of course, people have had that and then they've turned around and then they've taken tests and been negative multiple times. Do you feel like that pretty much is where you could pinpoint where everything went wrong 8 or 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago?
I think that's our best educated guess. And when I say that, I say that's our health and wellness team. That's our doctors. That's, consulting with Dr. Hostler, right? Somehow, some way, we started the chain of transmission, and we believe it started, while we were on the West Virginia trip, and trying to pinpoint it, we haven't been able to do that, right? We're certainly, reviewed all of our protocol, particularly that Friday night in the hotel. Saturday morning, we weren't in the hotel very long because it was a noon Eastern kick, right? So you get to the stadium an hour and a half, 2 hours before. There wasn't a lot of hanging around, et cetera. And again, just all of the precautionary measures that we had in place, the social distancing, the mask wearing, all of that, feel like staff and student athletes were really compliant. And then, the next place that we really took a look at was, just the locker room situation. And, again, being repetitive, right, visiting locker rooms across the country, they're smaller. The outside area, outside of the locker room was narrow. And so just, reviewing how we handle that situation. And, you have this false sense of security, because you believe you're getting on the plane and everybody's negative, and then you're wearing the N95s and the goggles. And, so, there's probably that false sense of security, and maybe you let your guard down just a little bit. Maybe, there's people on the bench, on the sidelines, that during the game that don't have the mask on when they should have the mask on. So those are all of the things. We really picked this thing to pieces and really just reviewed everything.
How does it change what you're going to do? If it's a false negative, the concern I've had is if it's a false negative that can set all this off, well, there's really nothing you can do about that if you have to run that risk again. So you just still have to kind of roll the dice, don't you, Mack?
Yeah, there's still some risk, and we all knew that going into this, right? Nothing was going to be perfect. There was a football student athlete in the Big 12, two different institutions involved in a game. The particular student athlete gets on the particular student athlete gets on a bus to go to the game, and obviously getting on the bus tested negative, and then during the game, 24 hours later, starts to feel sick, has some symptoms. They test him during the game, and he's positive, right? And so that's just part of what we're dealing with, and so you do the very best you can to take all of the precautionary measures, and sometimes I think you just you get unlucky, and that's that's what this felt like.
Mack, how have your expectations changed from just when everything was somewhat normal to where we are right now as far as what you expected to see out of football in this first year under Dave Aranda? And having been so long since we've last seen them play, I mean, what kind of feel do you get for this Saturday as well?
Yeah, candidly, I'm certainly, worried about the upcoming contest just because of the time off, right? The layoff and how do you react to that and lack of activity and, even with, the starters, there'll be, a handful that won't have a lot of practices under their belt. So you worry about that. But, in terms of expectations overall for the season, Craig, I'm not sure they've changed. I still have high expectations. I expect us to go out and, number one, play hard, play harder than the opponent. I expect us to be tougher on the field than the opponent. I expect us to execute at a high level, and I expect us to win games. And I would tell you that those are Coach Aranda's expectations. So we're not going to lower them. We may be more difficult to achieve because of some of the things that we faced, but not going to let those become excuses. And we're just going to work on playing the best that we can and getting better and understanding that there's 7 games out in front of us. And we have a chance to have a good year.
Mack, with that being said, after the latest delay, the game being pushed back to December, you go down to Austin and you expect to win the game. You go down to Austin after all you've experienced the last couple of weeks and win that game. Would that be almost as emotional as it was when you finally kicked off against Kansas earlier this year after all the delays?
Wow, great question. This will this moment will be the very first time I've even thought of that, and I would tell you, yeah, it probably will be emotional, right? And again, it'll be emotional because of the opponent. It's a big game for both schools. There's a rivalry. It means a lot to our student athletes. Student athletes on both sides of the ball. A lot of them have grown up together, have played on the same team or competed against each other before they arrived at UT or Baylor. So, probably will be somewhat emotional if we're able to overcome and persevere and walk out of or drive out of Austin with a W.
Mack, do you have you gotten to talk to the players all that much going through this, and does it kind of give you an idea of how you have to deal with it down the line now that you've really gone through it? At least from an emotional standpoint.
Yeah, I think we've got some resilient young men, and they've handled the adversity. There's a true brotherhood. They want to play. They've, again, we're asking 18 to 22-year-olds to, be almost more mature than adults in the way they navigate all of this. And they've been really good. And they were really good during the time off, the stay in place order. And when they got together again on Sunday for practice, there was great energy. There was, just a happiness to be back together and to play. And so, I don't know, they may be taking it better than the athletic director is.
Hey, okay,
Great.
sorry, my mic was off there for a second, Max. Sorry about that. How does a trip to Austin versus a trip to Morgantown differ? I would imagine a plane ride is not necessary, but how different is this trip versus what you guys had to do about 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's Craig, I appreciate the question. I think there's a lot of similarities to it. The same precautionary measures. Instead of a plane, we're going to be on a bus. It'll be the same type of protocols that we had on the plane. Those same protocols will be on the bus. The mask, the goggles, all of those things. So a lot of similarities. We'll probably tweak some things at the hotel in terms of the way we do the meal, and just making sure that maybe less time spent together, and then really being strategic with the locker room layout and how we handle that, and how many in the locker room at a time, and do we have some people dress at the hotel, for example, and get on the bus dressed, so that not having to do that in the locker room, and again just trying to reduce the number and the amount of people at any one time in the locker room. So those are some things that we'll do a little bit differently this time around.
With what the SEC experienced last week, and Nick Saban tests positive, and then starts to take a test after a test after a test, and obviously it turned out to be whatever his positive test was not true. It was false. Do you have that in the Big 12, or is that an SEC thing?
So, the Big 12 does have a policy, and I don't want to mess it up, but it's only if it's a positive antigen test. Okay. So you can do confirmatory testing on a positive antigen. You cannot on a positive PCR. If it's a positive PCR test, then that stands, and you're in isolation for the 10 days. On a positive antigen, right? You can take 24 hours later. You can take a PCR, and if that is a negative, then another 24 hours, another PCR, right? And if you have the two negative PCRs in a row, 24 hours, in between, then you're out of isolation, and you're deemed a negative rather than a positive.
Is the antigen
that's the Big 12? That's the Big 12 policy.
But is the antigen test the one that's taken on Friday, or is that taken during earlier parts of the week? Because if it's on Friday and you're positive, you have no chance of being cleared for a game.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And so, right now, throughout the league, right, the test that's on a Friday is an antigen. And so a lot of conversation about how do we manage, the Sunday test and the Wednesday test. And right now, I'm not going to, necessarily speak for everyone, but my best guess is that most people are doing the PCR, just because it's the gold standard of testing, and gives you the most accurate results. So if you're doing PCR Sunday and Wednesday, right, you have a positive, and then you have to live with that positive because you can't test out of it. So is there any thought? Is there any strategy? And I use that word strategy carefully. But is there any strategy to all of a sudden now do we change, for instance, the Sunday test from a PCR to an antigen, right? And you've got to think really carefully about doing that, and make sure that that's still in the best interest of our student athletes and staff from a health and safety standpoint. So that is a conversation that is going on right now as we speak.
Is it a conversation because it seems like that would be more fair, or is it a conversation because perhaps some are pushing the envelope?
I think both. I think a little bit of both, right? What happened with Coach Saban and the SEC, that was for the world to see, and played out. And all of us, human nature, right, want a competitive edge and want to make sure that we're being, as aggressive as possible. Other coaches see that. Well, are we doing that? Can we do that? If we can't do it, why can't we do that? Right. So I think it's from that perspective, pushing the envelope, but then I think it's also, hey, at the end of the day too, you don't want to take away an opportunity from somebody that it shouldn't be taken away from. If it's a false positive, right. And now all of a sudden, we're sitting a student athlete out or, staff member. Okay. How fair is that? So, it's a balancing act and you're trying to balance both sides. And again, your foundation is and always will be, health and safety of our student athletes and staff.
Mack, how about your number 1 ranked women's golf team?
Yeah. How about that? First time in the history of the program, and really proud of Coach Goebel and our young ladies, and just have had a fantastic fall season, and as well as our men's program. And so both of our golf programs are off to a great start, and again proud of both programs. But again, we always focus results on the course and the winning piece, and again, so proud of them for that, but more proud of them for how they're doing it and the things that they're doing off of the golf course as a team and as a staff.
I had a question for you, and I know you got to go. Can basketball players not go to class and only do Zoom classes so we can bubble them and bubble wrap them, both men's and women's basketball, for the fall semester?
So can we become the NBA? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the question.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Next question.
No. Hey, we'll see you Saturday. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck the rest of the week as you manage this.
All right. Thank you all. Take care.
Mack Rhoades, I want to clarify everything he just said there because it makes sense, but the antigen test in the Big 12 is taken on Friday. That's the one where they got caught up before Houston, right? No. That's the one that got caught up where others have been caught up too. Well, here's the thing that's interesting. If you test positive Saturday morning, you have no chance of being cleared to play in the game because the antigen test can be cleared if you do back-to-back PCR test within 24 hours and then 24 hours, which is what Saban did. If you do the antigen test earlier in the week and it's positive, you could test out of it, but they don't do that. They do that on Saturdays. I wonder if he's also suggesting some are not doing the antigen test on Friday and they're doing it earlier in the week. They got to boot. That's all got to be on the same page, doesn't it?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking about how to recap all of the stuff that he just said about testing, and it's so tiring and frustrating that get down in the weeds on. I mean, it's a good information to know. Don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of people that have questions about it. But I'm sitting here thinking, how do you summarize? PCR and antigens on Friday and all of the stuff that goes with that. So, man, it's so complicated. I don't envy those folks for having to figure that out.
If you get positive in a PCR test, you're done. You have to go in isolation for the 10 days. If you test positive with an antigen test, you can take a test 24 hours later, a PCR test, and if that's negative, then you wait 24 hours again, and if you test negative again, then you're cleared. The problem is they're taking the antigen test Friday morning, and you cannot be cleared for a game that weekend if it ends up being a false positive. That's the problem, it seems like, with the timeline. The SEC, Nick Saban, and maybe others have been able to get through that.
Well, if anybody would figure out a way to, falsify is probably not the right word, but get around medical testing, it would be the SEC and Nick Saban finding a hidden advantage somehow. That's for sure.
Well, we now know he walks on water, and we always knew that.
Yes.
It's official. And I'm not just pointing the finger at Nick Saban because that is interesting, though, that he ended up going negative.
I mean, there's no one to really point a finger at. You know, if somebody's doing it differently, then you may say, hey, maybe we should do it that way, which I think is what you're saying. But I don't know how that process works for each individual school. Obviously, it's not across the board for everybody. But, I mean, yeah, on the one hand, if you can find a way for your players to play and get around these tests in some way, that's great. I also don't think it's totally great because you're also kind of...
If you're doing it for what is in the best health of the player.
Which I don't believe that probably every college football coach is doing, just based on the history of college football coaches.
Okay, all right. When we come back, we'll have David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com at 5 o'clock, Zach Robochik, John McClain, 5:30. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
The First National Bank of Central Texas, 5 locations right here at home: Waco, Woodbury, Hewitt, China Spring, Martin, Hillsboro. Familiar faces making local decisions, here to help you, your family, and your business. Whether it's tough times or great times, all of us need a bank we can count on. Great people with great technology dedicated to their customers and helping our area grow. Safe banking in person or use their online mobile apps. Convenient drive-through and ATMs at all locations. In fact, used one this morning. First free checking. When they say free, they mean free. No minimum monthly balance, no monthly service charge, unlimited check writing, and unlimited debit card purchases. That's at the First National Bank of Central Texas. 5 locations here at home to serve you.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco's newest gym, Halo Athletic Center, 5725 Bagby Avenue, right behind Region 12 and across the highway from the Central Texas Marketplace, where motivation, inspiration, and hard work are the driving force. State-of-the-art equipment, indoor and outdoor track, locker rooms, showers, yoga and bar classes by Duality Yoga, bod pod potty composition analysis, and registered dietitians, all under one roof, where we rise above. Come join the Halo Athletic Center and be a part of the change, your change.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How can we help you? That's a question we ask every day at American Bank. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Our commitment to our customers is what drives us. It's why we've invested in new branch buildings and technology like ITMs that let you speak to a teller face-to-face from your car. It's why we work with local businesses, helping Waco grow and thrive. And it's why decisions about your accounts and loans are made here in Waco by people who know you. How can we help you? Find out at American Bank, member FDIC.
Here's 1st and 10. Kyler Murray, a deep shot, got a man, and it's caught. Christian Kirk. How about 80 yards to the house, just like that?
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
David Hellman joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. David, that was absolutely a disaster last night. Of course, their offensive line is a wreck. Defensively, I don't know, but is there now, we're seeing some reports, there's some chirping going on? Are the players starting to chirp, or is this just what happens when a team starts to fall apart?
I mean, it's probably both, right? Yeah, I mean, if you've been on social media today, you've seen some reports that, maybe the players aren't trusting the buy-in. I see some quotes about how coaches don't know what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that happens when you are on a historic pace for being terrible. This is what I think they've allowed. They're tied for the fourth most points allowed through the first 6 games in the 101-year history of the NFL. It's really bad. And, the NFL is all about ego. So I think when your ego is as battered as the Cowboys probably is, you look for people to blame. It's the name of the game.
David, you had a tweet about the 5 or 6 guys that have gotten big contract extensions, and 2 of them are on IR. One of them is Amari Cooper, and he's, I guess playing okay, so to speak. But the rest of them really aren't playing well right now. Which one do the Cowboys maybe have buyer's remorse on the most?
Jalen Smith, I think. And it's ironic because Jalen's deal, that's what I mentioned that earlier. Jalen's deal looked like a bargain when he signed it. He's coming off a fantastic 2018 season. His arrow was pointed upward, 2 seasons into his career after his injury, and he was making the type of plays we were seeing in 2018. And I don't think his average salary was even in the top 5 for linebackers at the time. So here you are thinking you're getting a perennial Pro Bowler at a discount, and it just hasn't been the case. He is a liability more often than he is a strength for this defense. And it's just, some of it's terrible luck and some of it's buyer's remorse, but the guys that the Cowboys are counting on, the guys that get all the money aren't delivering. Jalen Smith, Demarcus Lawrence not delivering. Dak Prescott, Lyle Collins, Tyron Smith, all on IR. Zach Martin might not be available this week. You mentioned, Amari Cooper's having a pretty good season, but he's really the only big money guy on the list that is. And I think that's a huge reason why they look so bad.
Of the tape from last night, or from the moments of last night and watching it, David, what was the low point for you as far as a play or a certain sequence of events?
I keep harping on this, but it's absolutely inexcusable for an NFL. You should never score from 50 yards away on an NFL defense. It's very hard to do. I mentioned this, Derrick Henry has this 94-yard run against Houston the other day, and he had to stiff arm 3 guys and juke his way out of tackles. It's really, really hard to score from distance in the NFL, and the Cowboys don't make it look that way. They've given up 3 touchdowns of 50 yards or longer in the last 3 games, 2 of them coming against the Cardinals, and Arizona didn't even have to work for it. That's something you get used to seeing in college football when one team has absurdly more talent than the other, but this is supposed to be the NFL. So I just can't get over that, some of it's the players not being good enough and some of it is the scheme not working correctly, but that just shouldn't happen. And it's happening on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that was that Kenyon Drake, Paul? Is that the one I alluded to there? They're just trying to run out the clock. It just seemed like to me, just run the ball between the tackles. Next thing you know, I turn around and I miss a long touchdown run. The offensive line is an absolute wreck. That's because of injuries. They've now lost maybe Hall of Famers, 2 or 3 or 4 of them. I don't know. Zach Martin goes out with a concussion. It's not going to get any better. They're dealing with what a lot of teams deal with every day. How do they protect Dalton the rest of the year if, in fact, he can remain upright the rest of the year?
And you're absolutely right. Obviously, this line is overmatched. You might not have Zach Martin on Sunday, which means 4 of the 5 expected starters for Week 1 are out of the lineup. There isn't an NFL team that can weather that many injuries. There just isn't that much depth in the league. But on the flip side, I have to go back and watch the tape a little bit closer, but I thought Andy Dalton had time to throw a decent amount. Yeah, the Cardinals brought a lot of pressure. They sacked him 4 times, or 3 or 4 times, but there were a lot of instances where he was double clutching in the pocket and not looking sure about his reads. And maybe the Cardinals coverage was just that great, but 9-10-year veteran in the NFL, I mean, your clock's got to be going off. And I thought Dalton could have done a better job of getting the ball out, because, I mean, you just don't really have a choice. You're not going to have great protection probably for the rest of the year, honestly. And it's just something that they're going to have to adapt to.
Well, I guess if there's any kind of silver lining you can point to, David, it's that the schedule has 5 more division games, which the division is absolutely atrocious. And they also have the Vikings and Bengals on the schedule as well. So they could find their way to 6-10 just because, when awful plays awful, somebody has to be less awful.
I hear what you're saying, especially in regard to the NFC East. I mean, they're good enough to beat Washington twice and beat New York again and maybe even get a win against Philly. But I mean, I can't look at any other team in the league. Minnesota's 1-5 and the Bengals are 1. Like, I can't look at any other team in the league and be like, oh yeah, like they should be able to win that game. Cause like this Cardinals team that just embarrassed them is not a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. The Browns just got absolutely embarrassed by Pittsburgh, who is also on the schedule, by the way. So, I mean, they're gonna win more games. But, that's just the nature of the NFL. I sincerely doubt they're going to finish 2-14. But outside of the NFC East, they're going to need to clean it up a lot for me to expect it to happen. Because Minnesota, Justin Jefferson is lighting the league on fire. That sounds terrifying for this secondary to go against. And that Minnesota defense has plenty of talent to stop an offense that's as badly compromised by injury as this one is. So, yeah, I mean, they got a lot of soul searching to do because it's hard for me to look at the schedule and see like more than 2 or 3 more games that I feel good about them winning.
Dave, this is just a random question because it was something we were discussing shortly a little while ago, but how much do division titles, outside of just the automatic playoff berth, but winning the division itself, how exciting is that for the franchise? Is that a big deal or viewed as a big deal?
I mean, it's exciting in the sense that you get a home playoff game, right. And maybe for some franchises it's exciting because it's an accomplishment. I mean, I grew up a New Orleans Saints fan. Winning the division was a huge deal in New Orleans before Drew Brees got there, but I mean, this is the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
Yeah, they don't hang banners for division championships at AT&T Stadium. They have 5 world title banners. So, and it's been 30 years since they've done that. So, I don't expect any Cowboy fan to get excited about winning the division. Other than that, it means you get to host a playoff game.
Yeah, that is the Yankees, the Lakers, the Celtics, perhaps the Cowboys, I guess, and a few others. David, if in fact they're playing against a team that has a very good front, defensive front in Washington, but they have their own problems. They're crippled. They're not very good. That Giants-Washington game was just, ineptness across the board, just like the Giants-Cowboys game the week before in certain ways. There's a reason why they're both, the Redskins are 1-5. If they lose that, and I know what you're saying, they lose that game, is there any chance they right the ship if they lose that game this Sunday?
I mean, yeah, of course. There always is. I mean, and I think we're all, and trust me, I know how bad they looked last night, and I know how bad they've looked for most of the season, but we also, we can be prisoners of the moment as well. There are ebbs and flows to a season. You get guys back from injury. I've made this point a few times. I mean, the Eagles looked just as futile last year as they have for long stretches of this year. They were 5-7 and just looking dead in the water, and they managed to win 4 in a row and steal the NFC East from the Cowboys, who couldn't get their act together. So, what is true in mid-October often will look ridiculous compared to what's happening in December. So, yeah, I mean, and especially because this division is so terrible. I mean, it's hard to imagine the champion of this division. There's no way we'll have more than 9 wins, and 7 or 8 seems more realistic. So they're going to be in the conversation for the next 5 or 6 weeks at least. But I mean, they just absolutely don't have a chance unless they majorly get their act together on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, David, it's hard for me to see a way out of this chasm until next year and people are healthy again.
I mean, I tend to agree with you. And I mean, the only thing that should give anybody hope is that this division is so bad. I mean, it's not like there's, the Eagles are the only team that have a realistic chance of winning it other than Dallas, and they've got problems all their own. And obviously, I mean, the rebuttal to that is, so what? Neither one of these teams looks better than, losing their first playoff game. But it is what it is. I mean, you gotta play the thing out. I'm with you. It's hard for me to imagine this team getting drastically better, but they still got to play the game. So we might as well buckle in and see what happens.
David, thank you for your time. Thanks for jumping on with us a little bit early today.
Yeah, no problem, y'all. Thanks.
David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
I wonder
next hour. Go ahead.
If that'll be the most depressing Cowboys segment we do this year.
I don't know. I think there's.
I mean, not that there's no positives there, but I mean, I gotta think this is probably the low point. I mean, now granted, they lose to Washington, that's an even lower point.
If they lose to Washington, yeah, that's.
But it's not. It's already very, very low. I mean, even with the division talk and whatever, I mean. There's not anywhere to go but up right now, basically.
So they've not played Philadelphia. They haven't played Washington, and they're 1-0 against the Giants. The Cowboys over the years, unless I'm wrong, have dominated the NFC East to head up. They have just rolled through most of them. Yeah, they've been upset by some of them, or they've been beaten by better teams in the division. But that's the only way they're going to make the playoffs is that they go 4-2 or better against the East.
Well, apparently they, along with the Raiders, have the easiest schedule remaining. So that's according to the NFL scheduling folks. The Cowboys and Raiders have the easiest pass from here on out. But obviously, in the case of the Cowboys, they're digging out of a hole, whereas the Raiders are above ground still.
They're about to play the 1-5 Redskins. They have another game left against the 1-5 Giants. They have 2 games left with the 1-4-1 Eagles. That'll do it.
Yeah, I mean that's and then you can find one against the the Vikings or the if you get one of those, the Vikings, the Bengals, and you're in the playoffs. Although, I mean, then you're still you'd be 7-9. This is prime opportunity for you to. Because they've done this before. When they drafted Zeke, they had a good roster. Like that roster around Zeke was pretty good. And you saw it the very next year is when they had Dak and Zeke, they won the division going away. They rolled. So if they feel they have a good roster, which I don't think this roster is nearly as good as that one was, but if they feel they have some good players, they just need to plug here and there. You have a bad year, you get a top 5 to 10 pick, and then you're you can kind of roll the next year.
Yeah, but they thought they had a good roster going into this year. Yeah. And so something's not adding up is either their scouting skills or these players are just wholly underperforming. I think it's probably a little bit of both. But, I mean, the thing about it is I don't think just because of injuries they're as bad as they are. I think that they're just kind of who they are. And now you start wondering on the offensive line, all right, you got to rebuild that thing a little bit now. And you just – felt like 2 years ago you had solidified it for the next 10 years, but now you're already going to have to rebuild half of it. You got your quarterback, but you got to eventually sign him. Zeke looks worse than ever. I mean, quite frankly, he's not anywhere close to the dominating back that he was initially, and I don't know what that's about. Your receivers are great, but, I mean, man, they're in trouble. Like, this is not just hey, Dak got hurt, so it's a mulligan year. Obviously, the Dak thing's at the top of the list of why they're as bad as they are, but there's a lot of retooling that needs to be done, and you wouldn't expect that for a team who what you were thinking was putting the finishing touches on completing the whole thing.
Yeah, I was my mom had a cataract procedure a couple weeks ago, and I had to, take her to and from the hospital, and I did get to, when you're standing in the waiting room, waiting to take her, you can hear things, and there was somebody who was waiting to have a procedure, and they were going down the list of things of you've had this and this, and it was all bad stuff.
Right.
It's like diabetes and this and your heart, all these different things that they were having. And I was worried that this person just putting them under was just going to put them under forever,
right,
because they were so unhealthy. It kind of reminds me of you start with the top, oh yeah, you've got this, you've got heart disease, but you also have diabetes and this, and the Cowboys have a lot of different symptoms or a lot of different illnesses. It starts with Dak, it goes to the offensive line, the defense could be 4 different problems intersecting at once, whether it's the first one to me and the most obvious is that they hired a defensive coordinator who does not have a scheme that fits the guys that they have on the roster.
Well, why did you hire them? How come I didn't hear anybody going, yeah, but when they hired Nolan? Why? I didn't hear that from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing, you know why you didn't? Because Mike McCarthy kind of said, well, we're going to adapt what Mike Nolan does. We're going to adapt to what we have.
It's like signing a defensive tackle, and he's a 4-3 defensive tackle, but not a plug it 3-4 nose tackle or nose guard. And that's where it took me a long, long time. Oh, that guy's available. He's a defensive tackle. They should sign him, and then somebody had to explain that to me. And again, I'm not the X's and O's guy. Yeah. I get it. He's not a 4-3 defensive tackle. Why not? Oh, okay.
And they have to really evaluate the way that they look as an organization at defensive backs.
Yes.
No, they have to look at defensive players. Yeah. Not just they love the glitz and glamour. Lawrence, Jalen Smith, that's glitz and glamour.
But you're right, but I mean, I think that's a product of Cowboys fans overblowing how much glitz and glamour is really there, quite frankly. I've never been all that impressed with either one of those guys. I mean, as a whole, I've never felt like, wow, Demarcus Lawrence is one of the flashiest, greatest players. Never, ever crossed my mind in the league. He was due money, and they paid him, what the market says. But the thing about all these problems that they have, and Dak coming back eventually, whenever that is, not this year, obviously, doesn't help this year, but that will be, a key. But I would be worried right now on top of all the problems you have on defense. The talent is clearly not as good as you thought it was. Your quarterback's gone, whatever. If there's already players barking at the head coach and he's brand new and he's not even halfway through his first season yet, that's a major issue you got to get figured out because that will crumble the whole dadgum thing.
And we got to go here. Zach Robochik next. One of the reasons they might be barking is because they hear him say that they had a great week of practice. Maybe they're suggesting they didn't. Well, whose fault is that? Coaches and players, not just the coach. Get better. Be smarter.
Who's said that a lot about their Sunday practices has been Tom Herman. That's what he was saying after the Oklahoma game. People were just ready to throw him off a bridge.
All right, when we come back, he's rushed for nearly 6,000 yards, and there are still at least 3 regular seasons left if everything stays the same. Troy senior running back Zach Robochik, who's committed to play at Sam Houston State, coming off the huge overtime win against Cameron Yo. His thoughts about this season, his career, and much more, next on Sikkim 365 Radio. Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe, customer service their main focus. But you have to have great product. Oh, yeah, they have that as well. They strive to build relationships and also want you to look forward to contacting them or coming to see them at their locations in Waco and Bryan. They offer metal buildings, components, metal roofing, structural pipe, including half-inch diameter to 24-inch diameter, all types of structural steel, including beams, channel iron, much more. And have a very large inventory. If they don't have something, an item in stock, they'll surely get it for you and immediately. High-quality materials, making sure your metal building bids are structurally sound because competitors will bid buildings lighter to make them cheaper and sometimes compromise structural integrity. So make sure you ask them about that as well. And they offer the fastest turnaround time in the business on metal building orders. Large pipe inventory, options available, building a nice fence, an entryway, a farm or a ranch, or just a house that you got a lot of room around it. Any questions, you can always go on pioneerboys.com and look at what they have or go by their locations in Waco and Bryan. Open on Saturdays, 8 until noon. Since 1943 and 77 years going strong, pioneerboys.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Employee pricing is back at Allen Samuels, exclusively on the king of minivans, the new 2020 Chrysler Pacifica. Get employee pricing plus financing as low as 0% or employee pricing and up to $4,250 in cash. You get Pacifica loaded up with style, comfort, and options all in one gorgeous minivan. Employee pricing with special financing or cash. Choices are always great at your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels.
Texas board certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
If you or a loved one or friend has been arrested and you can't afford bail, trust Terry and Chase Chapman at Chapman's Bail Bonds, covering Waco and McLennan County for over 25 years. Chapman's can bail you out anywhere with experienced, knowledgeable local agents who are committed to serving you professionally, respectfully, and with the highest integrity. Chapman's understands your privacy is important. Your freedom can be secured fast when you use Chapman's Bail Bonds. Open 24 hours a day. Payment arrangements available. Call Chapman's Bail Bonds. When you need help, 254-754-1603. When you ring, we'll spring.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
And Demarcus at midfield cuts it back to the right. Demarcus runs over one of his own players. He's going to take this for a score on the opening kickoff. Demarcus McDonald, 75 yards.
This high school football segment is sponsored by Southwest Sports Medicine. We'll get you back in the game. Now, here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Some of the better games in Central Texas this week. Midway needs a win. They're on the road to open up district play against Mansfield. Coppers Cove at Belton. Belton coming off the win. Let's see here. Ellison, Harker Heights is kind of a toss-up. I think Ellison the favorite there. Maybe Lampasas gets tested a little bit by Austin LBJ, but still heavy favorites. Lorena, yo.
I talked to Ray Biles this morning. You heard the segment earlier, and that's that district. It's weird. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Academy Rockdale.
And, right now, Lorena's in first place, and at least in a tie for first place. They're sitting pretty. They thumped McGregor pretty good. Played really good defense coming off the bye. So,
and that's a district again where a couple of really good teams will not make the playoffs. Academy Rockdale, Chris Lancaster's team needs a win. It's a little intriguing. Buffalo throws the ball around pretty well. But Franklin, of course, is starting to get on a roll. Remember when they lost a game earlier this year? They've been very dynamic since then. Marlin and Dawson. Marlin's got to try to contain that high-octane Hamilton brothers at Dawson. And I love what David Haynes is doing, but Dawson probably a slight favorite. And then Riker will have a game with Arlington Grace Prep with not their full roster as they try to battle back from what's going on with COVID. Now, that's going on. Troy plays Caldwell. Heavy favorites. Remember when Zach Robachick first kind of jumped on the scene back as a sophomore?
Yeah.
He now has 5,986 yards, 93 touchdowns after what he's done this year, almost 2,000 yards this year, 1,995 yards and 33 touchdowns, and that's through 6 games, I think. 1,995 yards and 33 touchdowns. Every week he's at 250 or above, it seems like.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just get used to seeing him in the weekly box score, and you get used to seeing him have at least 200 yards a game and a couple of touchdowns. He's one of, if not the best players in this area, our sliver of Central Texas. He's committed to Sam Houston State, which I think is somewhat known, but maybe not talked about that much because he just hasn't been heavily recruited like some other guys typically are. But, man, I tell you what, the Cats have them a good one, and I know they recently offered Kavian Gaither as well from Connolly, and so I think they're making the right offers here in Central Texas, that's for sure. But they've got a good running back coming their way. Right now, though, he's got Troy on a mission to go win a state championship, and he's certainly carrying his part of the load.
Actually, they've played 7 games. His lowest output this year was 207 yards in a loss to Franklin, 386 in a loss to McGregor. He's had 298, 251, on and on, 255 against Yo, including a couple of touchdowns. That's his lowest touchdown output this year. He's had a monstrous career. It's not over, and I had a chance to visit with Zach Rhoades, the star running back at Troy High School.
Everyone knows this young man's name. He has exploded onto the scene. We were able to kind of jump early on with Zach Rhoades, running back at Troy, back even a couple of years ago when he started putting up huge numbers, and he continues to do that at a monster win against Yo, 21-20 in overtime. How important was that win, and what was the reaction when that extra point was missed on Friday night?
It was a huge win for us. I'm just happy that the defense finally stepped up. We've been needing that for a while now, especially with the McGregor game and everything. And when the extra point missed, I'm sure I jumped probably clean over a ref's head, if you could put it, beside us. Like, I was just super excited. We were all running off the field. It's just amazing to get to experience that with a new team.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is this district you're in is absolutely a sledgehammer. It is every week. I know this week you're playing Caldwell, and they've struggled, but everybody is good. How much better do you think you are as a team knowing that each week you're going to get tested?
I'd say we're a lot better than we have been in the past. Personally, my mindset, just knowing every week you have to come out and give your best. Coach Porter reminds us Caldwell isn't a bad team. You just got to take every week as it might be your last and just go out there and grind it out, because Coach Porter told us to take it like every week's a playoff week, because it could be like a 4-way tie for first, or you may not make it just because of how the district is. But it's definitely a grind every week.
You're coming off a game. And, Zach, this is not anything new. You carry the ball a lot and obviously put up huge numbers. You have 39 carries. What is it like for you following a game when you get that many carries in a game? What is it like for you that night? What do you do when you get to your locker, or if it's a road trip going back, or what's it like the next morning or through the weekend as far as aches and pains, bumps and bruises?
Especially when it's a home game, I kind of we go back out. We have to put our mask on to go see people, but I usually sit there for a few minutes and just catch my breath and let my legs get a little rest. On the weekends, it's a little harder to get up on a Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. to go watch film. But, you get through it, take a few ice baths, just getting through it. It's a little rough sometimes. But on Monday or Tuesday, I'm usually good to go.
So I know you've had 30-something carries. In fact, in front of me on my own website, 37 against Lorena 2 years ago, 38 against Rockdale, 39 against Crockett a year ago, 39 against Yo this past week. Have you had 40-plus carries in a game once or twice, too?
I think it's been 42 carries in one game is the most I've ever had.
42 carries.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And if you look at rushing yards per game, and I know that it's not just about you, but obviously you're putting up big numbers and everyone talks about you, opponents, everyone knows what you're doing. If you look under rushing yards per game, as far as what you've done in games, every single one of them is Zach Rhoades, someone that maybe 2 or 3 years ago nobody had ever heard of. What does that mean to you?
That definitely means a lot, because coming up my freshman year, I was just trying to work for a starting spot and just make a name for myself. I never would have thought I would have become this big with everyone's help and just everything I've been through in the grind through the 4 years. It's just great to finally see my hard work pay off. Just has been a long time coming for me, starting from doing summer workouts all the time and just really getting in that grind and just knowing that I'll get results out of it if I just do it and do it with a passion.
Well, and you have. And there was a point, I think it's fair for me to say, that you were worried, parents were worried about, is there anyone going to notice what you're doing? Are you too small? You're too short? Whatever, no matter the numbers you were putting up. But that finally changed a little bit earlier this year, even through COVID and the shutdown and suspensions and everything else, the ups and downs. How much did that make you feel better? And I even said this to you. Someone will know. They'll figure it out. People know who you are. What did that mean to you when Sam Houston State reached out to you among some others and you eventually committed to them?
It meant the world to me, just having to trust what everybody's saying. Everybody's saying, oh, you'll make it. Somebody will find you. It's just that matter of just knowing I have to keep working hard and just keep grinding. And like you and many other people said, they'll come and they'll find you. It's just great to finally be relaxed and be able to play my season as a commit and just keep working towards that goal. And when Sam Houston reached out to me, I wasn't that big on it. I was like, it's another Southland offer, and just thought more would come. And then I was like, finally started talking to Coach Buckner and really realized how big of a family they were up there and how everything is up there. And I just fell in love with it. Even without even getting to visit it, I just fell in love with the people there.
You know that, I'm going to reiterate, that broke my heart, right? You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. And
it didn't matter to you at all?
Not that much.
No, I didn't think so. I'm kidding. I'm very happy. Sam Houston State, by the way, in football has been fantastic and has been that way for a long, long time. So does it change once you were able to – did it take a load off of you mentally? Did you change any at all that you have that in your back pocket?
I didn't change too much. I was still working out every day, just trying to get better. But definitely didn't have to stress about it as much anymore and just worry about it in the back of my head all the time if I was going to go play somewhere at the next level or if I was going to have to walk on. It just was a big relief to me and my parents.
You are and your team in the middle of this district that we've discussed. Lorena, Rockdale, Academy, Yo, McGregor, Caldwell. That's who you play this week, and, of course, where you are as well. It is an absolute nuts. It is, like you said, there's a chance. Well, first of all, two really, really good football teams, and I know that you have to give Caldwell credit, but there are going to be two really good football teams that don't make the playoffs. What would that mean if that happened to be you, if you guys don't take care of business?
That would be pretty heartbreaking to me, knowing that most people around the state of Texas don't have this district. But that would break my heart. But I don't think my team's going to let that happen.
You guys aren't going to let that happen?
No, we've been grinding since August and since actually July working on it. Strength conditioning. I just think we have that drive and passion for it this year.
You have a tremendous support system. I mean, you really do. And even when maybe some didn't know you or believe in you, you've had a great support system. What have your parents and others meant to you, Coach Porter and others meant to you during this time?
Yeah, my parents have been a huge part of this, just pushing me each and every single day to make sure that I go getting what's mine. And Coach Porter is a big part of it, just knowing that. Just giving me hope and everybody. And Coach Lancaster is a big part of it, too, knowing he's also the head coach at Academy now. He was a huge part of it. Just kept telling me game after game, they'll come, and I promise you. And just everyone around me, my teammates and everything, just always have positive words for me. And that was a big part of it, for sure.
You have, at the end of the year, this game against Academy. I know you're focused on Caldwell, then it's Rockdale, but you do have that last game scheduled against Academy, and Coach Lancaster's the head coach now. How surreal will that be?
That'll definitely be surreal, playing against a coach that took me under his wing my freshman year and showed me all the ropes and stuff and just guided me through all 3 years of from freshman to junior year. Just helped me with everything. It'll be fun, and I'm ready to get after it with him.
you have to have others who make plays for you. You mentioned the defense rose to the occasion against Yo. The offensive line has to do what they're doing. I remember Coach Porter saying something about that this offensive line this year might be the best one you've had. How important have they been, and how much do you make sure they understand that when you get attention, they should get the attention as well?
Yeah, it's just huge. Whenever the Max Preps ranking came out for yards per game and yards so far, I just made it known that it's not just me, number 3. It's also them. This is their work as well. And just we have a few people we use for offensive as well. Jace Carr, our quarterback, has done an awesome job throwing the rock as, like, even though we throw the ball maybe once or twice a game. This past game, we had a huge play on third down where he got a 12-yard pass to Jay Schmidt, and he's also a huge part of it as well, just blocking and running his routes and spreading the box out so we can run the ball a little more and just everything. Just everybody has a role in this offense, especially our tight end, Jacob Smith. He's been a huge part of it, coming up clutch and huge plays. And Hunter Martin as well has been huge for us, just helping me get my breaks, and he also gets a few touchdowns here and there. And that's really exciting to see some of my teammates get touchdowns as well.
What has it been like to be a senior in high school and going through the spring when everything all of a sudden came to a halt? It was obviously a weird way to end your junior year. The summer was ups and downs. You didn't know what you could or couldn't do. And then now, I mean, here we are. It's week 9. It's fantastic. There's been some games that have been pushed around or canceled, whatever. But what's it been like to deal with this as an 18-year-old? Are you 18 yet?
Yes, sir.
What's it like to deal with this as an 18-year-old?
It's a little weird at times, not knowing what you can and can't do, especially during the summer. And last spring, our baseball season got canceled, and it was just really sad to see this not allow us to know that it might be our last game because it kind of ended all quick. We were actually in the middle of a tournament when it ended. And I just figured, we'll come back because they canceled it for the day. I was like, we'll come back. And then they said we're out for 2 weeks and then so on. But it's definitely a little surreal and very weird to be in this time and just knowing, unsure of things, if your season might get canceled, if your game just that week might get canceled or school get shut down. It's just you have to take it every day as if it's your last, honestly.
Yeah, what's it been like to make sure you take care of yourself and with making sure that you're, wash your hands and wear the mask and you're in the middle of playing football on Friday nights with, blood, sweat, and tears out there. Has that at times been difficult?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. Nobody likes wearing a mask, but you have to do it to keep everyone and yourself safe. It's definitely not something no one likes wearing that mask and just having to sanitize every 30 minutes or so. Just being at school, sometimes it's a little exhausting, and keep getting reminded to put your mask up if you may forget sometimes. It's still a little weird. I'm taking my precautions, just staying away from people and just staying in my circle, like around the football guys. Most of them, I have classes with most of them, so I usually stay around them. And we just keep our distance from everybody else.
I'm looking at everything. You're now over 90 career touchdowns. I think you're just a carry or two away from going over 6,000 yards rushing based on what I had before the year started and where you are now after the start you've had. What do those numbers mean to you right now, if anything?
They don't mean too much. They definitely don't mean anything if you lose the game. Like with McGregor, like nice, cool stats. I don't really care. I just want to win. But it is a huge accomplishment for like seeing my teammates and just everything we've grinded for that. Because those aren't just my stats. Half of those are like long runs that just busted open because the line made a hole for me, and I just hit it. It's just if we don't win, then I don't really care about stats or honestly.
Having fun?
It's just all about having fun and getting the win.
What would you say to close it out? Zach Robochik, running back at Troy, record-setting running back. What would you say if somebody had never met you and they know about your football, but they don't know you, what would you tell them about Zach Rhoades that perhaps some don't know? Something about you individually, personally, something that's unique, something that may be a hobby, something that is not football.
I'm definitely a quiet kid. Most people not know that when they see me on the football field. But I'm really a quiet kid, and I'm laid back, and just also, I love playing video games. Nobody knows that, but that's one of my favorite things to do is play video games on the weekends.
Do you play with others who are like at other locations? Because I know you can do that. I'm 61. I started out with the old game kind of like Pong and Centipede and Pac-Man, which you would laugh at. But you guys you can play against other people. They might be in Virginia or Ohio or whatever, right?
Yeah, I've played with a few people around Central Texas. Like I played with Cameron Valdez and Keyshawn Raven up in Rockdale a few times, and it's just fun to get on there and talk with those guys about the season and everything.
Zach, you've had a great run. I know that you want at least, well, what you hope will be 9 more games if things go well, 3 more in the regular season with Caldwell, Rockdale Academy, and the postseason as well. Congratulations on everything. So happy that things have gone well for you and always felt like they would. It was just a matter of time. You've been patient, and thanks for your time, and good luck this week against Caldwell.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
That's Troy High School running back Zach Rhoades on Sikkim 365 Radio.
The kickoff savings event continues at Richard Carr, Buick GMC, Cadillac. All 2020 vehicles on the lot are priced to move right now, and you can get it all. A smooth, quiet ride in a first-class interior matched with power and durability with the GMC Sierra, a.k.a. the best truck on the road. During Richard Carr's kickoff savings event, qualified buyers will save $9,000 off a 2020 GMC Sierra at Richard Carr. They also have the 3-row Buick Enclaves, an amazing value in a luxury SUV during the kickoff savings event. All 2020 3-row Buick Enclaves are $10,000 off, or you get the versatile and nimble Buick Encore for only $19,900. And maybe you're ready to step up to ultimate luxury and style in a Cadillac. We'll let Richard Carr bring the Cadillac experience to you with an XT4, XT5, or the full-size 7-passenger Cadillac XT6 and save $2,000. 2020 Cadillac XT4 start at only $34,690 at Richard Carr Cadillac, or you can find one of the best sedan values on the market with the exhilarating 2020 Cadillac CT4 sedan starting at $32,995. It's the kickoff savings event at Richard Carr. Score huge savings right now on all vehicles in stock. Go to richardcarr.com or come see the deals at Highway 6 in the Imperial Exit, or call us and we will bring the test drive to you.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Bird Culture Ford has been in Waco since 1936. Ford, the #1 selling truck in Texas, 43 years running. And Bird Culture Ford proudly supports high school football in Central Texas. And no better way to tailgate with a Ford than from Bird Culture Ford. And are there better vehicles to tailgate with than the Ford F-150 or the Ford Expedition? And of course, you can get them new pre-owned Bird Culture Ford. Our sponsor of the Ford Tough Player of the Week, locally owned dealership. Online at bkford.com at 1701 West Loop 340 in Waco. Bird Culture Ford.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Don Humidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
5-yard line. Henry breaking free. 20, 25, off to the races. They may not catch him. They won't catch him. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
I did put up a topic thread on Sikkim 365, the Premium Insider. What single Baylor player are you more interested in watching, or most interested in watching in Saturday against Texas, especially after the delay? We'll have some of those answers for you momentarily. John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Houston Chronicle, joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio. John, you've covered the NFL enough. The Cowboys coming off a disastrous performance against Arizona. They're beat up, no Dak, whatever. They now understand what a lot of teams go through. But when you start to have leaks or players chirping about the coaches, is that a locker room split, or is that just players finding excuses and not looking in the mirror?
Well, first of all, I think people who will not put their name on negative comments are gutless cowards. I've always thought that. If you're gonna rip somebody, have the courage and the confidence to put your name on there. Don't be a guy that goes around taking shots at people anonymously. I never use anonymous quotes. I tell people, if you want to rip somebody, I'll be happy to write it. But you're going to have to put your name on there. Anyway, for players to do that, I'm guessing now some others will come out in support of Mike McCarthy, and don't blame them for being frustrated. But you know what? Zeke Elliott fumbles twice. And you can't put a defense that's as bad as the Cowboys under Mike Nolan, has injuries, and put them in a hole like that. Andy Dalton is not Dak Prescott. He's not going to throw the ball all over the place and bring you from behind. And when it was 21-0, that took the Cowboys totally out of their game plan. Yes, they got injuries. A lot of teams have injuries, but none have a defense as bad as the Cowboys. There is some pathetic defense being played in the state of Texas. Cowboys giving up more points, 4th most in history through 6 games. Texans defense is historically bad, especially against the run. And fortunately for the Texans, they still have their quarterback, even though they've only won 1 game.
For the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, is it too early to say that maybe they whiffed on that hire?
I don't think you can judge anything, Paul, for 6 games, especially when you've had injuries on both sides of the ball. One thing I question immediately, and I've talked to you guys, when you hire your buddies, it tends to get you in trouble. and he hired Mike Dolan. I think Mike was the head coach of the 49ers when he hired Mike McCarthy. And so he brought him in there, and he's not like some great defensive coordinator. You could have hired Wade Phillips, somebody like that. Wade's out there, but he hired his buddy, and it's backfiring. And when you have injuries, that exacerbates the problem. And then when you lose Dak Prescott, that makes it worse. The silver lining, the proverbial silver lining, they play in the worst defense, maybe the worst in NFL history. I think the winner of that defense might be 6-10. We've had a 7-9 division winner, but we've never had a 6-10, and that's the way it looks like it's headed because it is awful.
John, what were your thoughts on Houston falling just short against the Titans? And I know you wrote about their just all-time bad rushing defense stemming back to the Baltimore game last year. Were you able to find a point to where things just started to go haywire? That was it, but why did it start to go haywire after that?
I don't understand how a defense can be third in the NFL and they're giving up 82 yards a game against the run. That was in 2018. And then the first 9 games of last season, give up 84 yards a game. And then all of a sudden, you give up 163 over the last 9 games of last season, counting the playoffs, and the first 6 games of this season. How does that happen? And people say, well, they got rid of Jadeveon Clowney, Tyrann Mathieu, Kareem Jackson. No, that didn't have anything to do with it because they were great against the run without them for 9 games. And people go, well, they let DJ Reader, their nose tackle, get away in free agency. DJ was there last year when the run defense started to be pathetic. And so this year, it's carried over to the entire team. They just gave up 601 yards rushing, 601 yards against the Titans, which shattered the most in history. And the most they've given up rushing is 148. And right now they're giving up 177. Deshaun Watson's playing great. He's put together 3 consecutive 300-yard games. If he does it against the Packers, that'll be 4 in a row for the first time in his career. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass, but boy, they're throwing it really well.
John, forgive me if you've already answered this, but Romeo Crennel went for the kill. He went for the kill shot, the 2-point conversion. Has he admitted that was just something he was trying to win the game right then and there? I know he's taken some heat for that.
Let me point out, I agree with it 100%, and all these nincompoops that are saying it was wrong because of percentages, I say percentages has never watched this defense. This defense proved again how bad it is by letting them go 76 and 82 yards on their last series to win 2 series to win the game. So why would anybody that knows anything about football think that they might be able to stop a touchdown drive and a 2-point conversion? They can't stop a nosebleed. They can't stop a clock. And I say to people, would you go at the 2-yard line with Deshaun Watson to win when he's playing great? Or would you take a chance on this defense to prevent a touchdown and a 2-point conversion? And all these people ripping them around the country are clueless because they're going with percentages. They've got nothing to lose. They're terrible. Go for the win. I've backed Romeo Crennel, and I always will. I thought it was a great decision. Go for the win with Watson, and don't rely on your defense that is absolutely wretched.
Yeah, John, I didn't really come down on either side of the fence of it, but when you watched how the Titans just went right down the field and scored that touchdown, you can understand why he would want to put them, it changes the whole game. Now, they might have still gone down the field and scored a touchdown, but now they got to get an onside kick and kick a field goal.
Yeah, the odds are they're not going to score a touchdown, and they're not going to get and they're going to have to get a field goal and the extra point to win the game in the last 150. The odds are greatly against that, even against the Texans defense. So I have no problem. I keep writing and broadcasting and tweeting, put the ball in Deshaun Watson's hands. If you lose, then there's no problem with it. He's your best player. And they did, and the defensive tackle, Jeffrey Simmons, made a great play to get his hand up to deflect the pass to wide open Randall Cobb in the end zone, and then the defense couldn't stop the Titans on 2 series. Something is very telling. Overtime coin toss, the Titans got it, and Deshaun Watson is like rolling his head like, oh, my God, it's over. Because He's seen this defense too.
Yeah,
Stevie Wonder could see how bad this defense is.
Yeah, he kind of harumphed off the field.
Well, it's because he knew what was coming. We all did.
John, what do you expect with Tua Tagovailoa getting the start in Miami, the Tua era getting underway?
Well, it's obvious they had hit this move plan before the season for the bye week. Now, I don't know. They've won 2 in a row. They're 3-3. They're 1 game out of first place in the AFC East. It's not like Ryan Fitzpatrick's hit the bad wall yet. Usually he's very streaky and inconsistent where he'll be really good and then really bad overnight. And he hadn't hit that wall. But they're going with Tua. To me, with rookie quarterbacks, you don't go to the playoffs. So I would think this move would eliminate them from, even though that division's nothing special, I wouldn't expect a rookie quarterback to take them to the playoffs. Last time, I mean, it may have been done. I've never been Roethlisberger, but he went to a really good Steelers team when he was drafted in the first round and got to play when Tommy Maddox was injured, and the rest is Steelers history. But Tagovailoa is a great prospect. We all know what he's come back from, but man, they're taking a big chance, and it could be Fitzy gets back in there at some point if Tagovailoa struggles.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Derrick Henry has become just an amazing player. He was obviously a great player at Alabama, especially late in his career, and he's dominating now for the Titans in that win. You saw him close up, the monstrous 90-plus yard run, and then the game winner. Can he win an MVP in a league that's dominated by quarterbacks winning the MVP?
I certainly think he can because he's getting a lot of attention. He just ran for over 200 yards, over 210 yards for the second time in a row against the Texans. And I wrote today, maybe Mike Vrabel will show some mercy to the Texans defense in the last game of the season and rest him if the Titans already have their playoff seed secured the way the Texans did against the Titans in the last game here last year. But Henry is, and I just wrote my lead on my column when you guys called it, memo to Cal McNair, the Texans owner, when he's putting together his list of coaching candidates, he needs to include Tennessee's Arthur Smith. He's been in that organization for 10 years with 4 different coaches. Mike Vrabel named him offensive coordinator. He has done a great job with Ryan Tannehill. He's done a great job utilizing Derrick Henry, and he's going to get a head coaching job after this season. He's 38 years old. He's been in the NFL since he was 26. He was with Joe Gibbs right out of college in Washington, and the reason is his daddy is Fred Smith, the FedEx mogul.
Hey, I guess this is correct. You would know, but the last time a non-quarterback won an NFL MVP was LT. LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006.
And he scored he set the record for touchdowns, and they were real good. And so I would think Henry, because he's such a workhorse, he didn't get overused early in his career because he rotated with DeMarco Murray for 2 seasons. And usually he's a second half of the season runner. And he going into the Texans game, he was averaging 3.7 yards carrying at 376 yards. And here come the Texans, and he lapped them up like a thirsty, starving dog in August. And he just ran right through them and around them. And I think he has a good chance to be the MVP.
John, the Baylor Bears this weekend, they're finally back to play. They have to go to Austin to play a team that hasn't been sidelined by COVID issues and can still practice, but are in a bit of a tailspin themselves. So what do you expect to see in Austin on Saturday?
Well, it's been so long since Baylor's played. It seems like that. It's hard to remember that they got beat by West Virginia. And Texas says those Longhorns, they've been exciting. They've come back. They've blown some games. And it's not going to be a lot of crowd noise there. But it's hard when you have a lot of time off and you're working in so many new players like Baylor has been on both sides of the ball, especially in the line. I know this. They're not going to run any defensive linemen like they did at West Virginia who can manhandle them up front. So if Charlie Brewer plays well consistently, they got a chance to beat the Longhorns. But, man, Ellinger's playing really well.
John, speaking of Bears, what do you think about Chicago and Nick Foles and their 5-1 start?
As people say, Craig, it's winning ugly. Who cares? They're winning. The Bears are 5-1. The schedule has been suspect, but I tell you what, they've won. They're 5-1. And I think that much respect should go out to Matt Nagy, who has done a tremendous job this season. Mitchell Trubisky will never play there again unless something happens to Nick Foles as far as being injured. But people in Chicago got to be fired up, and I'm happy for Foles because he's one of the all-time great guys who's bounced around, got that Super Bowl ring with the Eagles, and now he's back in the lineup after bombing out with the Jaguars.
Yeah, no question about it. John, thank you. Appreciate your time. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got something else. Sick'em.
There you go. John McClain. Tuesdays at 5:30. Hall of Fame writer, used to be with the Trib, also from Waco, Baylor University, and with the Houston Chronicle. On the Willis Law Firm chat room, J.D. Foy 1, how come they don't just take the antigen test based on what Mack said on Wednesday? If you took it Wednesday and you're positive Thursday, it still would be tough because you got to wait 24 hours, take another one. If you get a negative, then you'd have to wait 24 hours again. That might be Friday. You might get cleared. But it sounds like they need to discuss when they take the antigen test, which, Paul, you said that's kind of a spit in the cup type thing. Yeah. The PCR is much more stringent, but the antigen test is one that is the Big 12 test, along with others. And it just seems like that needs to kind of be clarified a little bit. Right about the time John McClain was talking about Anonymous, Rick Gosselin, another Hall of Fame writer, players have always had greater security than the coaches in Dallas. If the Cowboys players have a problem with their coaches, put your name on those quotes, then look in the mirror. Don't hide behind anonymous quotes. Anonymity is cowardice.
I agree with him. You know, if you're a guy who's been chirping a lot to the media, you know, I'm sure that you have no problem being quoted and your name being published when things are going well after a big victory. But if suddenly you're not wanting your name to be used when things aren't going as well, then I do think that's cowardice. I think you put your money where your mouth is and put your name on it if you've got something to say. And it sounds to me like they need to be saying more of this in the locker room and not in the media, first of all. They need to have a locker room discussion because they're clearly on very different pages right now, players, coaches, et cetera.
And these are the same players that get really, really fragile when people start to say things, whether it's local talk shows, whether it's Twitter. These are the same players who might be the ones who are anonymous, who are the ones that get really, really overly sensitive when fans start, or even talk show hosts start to talk about them. By the way, that question about who among the Baylor players are you most interested in watching play this weekend, we'll come back with your answers on that on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Brotherwell Brewing, some good news came down from the state in that bars can open at limited capacity. So Brotherwell Brewing, again, their outdoor beer garden is open. So, based on social distancing guidelines, you can go and sit down in the outdoor beer garden and enjoy some of their fantastic beer from the tap room and whatever it is you like, whether you're into a Pilsner or whatever it is, they've got some kind of different variety of beer for you. They have so many different things. A lot of what they get when people come in is, hey, I don't like beer, but I do like this. So say you're with somebody and you want to go check it out and they're not a beer drinker, they probably have someone that's right down their alley. They're the sponsor of our fantasy football show, which runs tomorrow night live, and then you can download it. They've been great. You need to go try Brotherwell Brewing if you're a beer fan. It's a local beer. It's locally made here, and they want people in the Central Texas area to come enjoy craft beer and the beer-making process. Brotherwell Brewing, more information at brotherwell.com or stop by the brewery at 400 East Bridge Street.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. And this football season, you need to stop by on game day for curbside pickup or stop by their tent next to Sikkim 365 at Brazos Parking for your pregame refreshment. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
A couple of things to wrap up today. The virtual Waco, the Greater Waco Chamber virtual tip-off luncheon sponsored by Walk-Ons with Kim Mulkey, Scott Drew, Ricky Rhoades, and Kevin Gill from Baylor and McLennan County. MCC. It's a free event. You can sign up at wacochamber.com/events. Register for a chance to win a door prize. Obviously, with COVID, it will be a virtual event, the tip-off luncheon on November the 10th at noon with Kim, Scott, Ricky, Kevin, 4 fantastic, in the resumes of each one of them, basketball coaches. Also, if I asked you guys, and I'll read the responses from the website. What single Baylor player are you most interested in watching on Saturday after the delay against Texas?
Well, my answer for every Baylor game will be Terrell Bernard. I'm looking very much forward to seeing him back out there flying around on defense. But besides like the obvious choice like that, I'm interested to see how Charlie Brewer looks. Yep. I mean, as he goes, the Bears will go. And if he's more of West Virginia Charlie and not getting a lot of time, or even if he is getting time, not making great decisions, or even if he's making great decisions and getting time, his receivers aren't helping him out, that's going to be problematic. And as much as this season has felt like it's already, 10 games deep, it's 2. It's 2 games deep. I've seen 2 games in all this time. So I'm very interested to see, how sharp Charlie looks with a little bit of rest, a little bit of time away, and hopefully he plays well. I know he'll want to play well just because he's playing, but especially against Texas, there is that back, story and back history, and this very well could be his last game against UT, so I think it's going to be a special one for him.
I'm going to pick we can ask this question every week. I'm going to pick a different offensive lineman until they start playing well or better. I'm going to pick Blake Bettier this week. That's who I'm kind of curious to see. Blake Bettier. See how he does.
And he apparently going to be, listen to the depth chart, right, Craig? The 2 deep is the right guard this week, which is where we always thought he would probably end up, with Burton playing right tackle. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, on the website, the responses: offense, Charlie Brewer, whoever starts at quarterback, Jalen Petrie. Brewer, hands down. We absolutely have to turn him loose, even if it means our defense is on the field a little bit more than we'd like. From Alpha Needle, I love the names on message boards. Jake Burton and Xavier Newman. I asked for one, but they gave me two. That's okay. See if the offensive line, as Paul, you mentioned, bounces back. This is the key for how the rest of the year will go.
Burton's actually going to play his more natural position, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that should make a world of difference because what was it? He had slid in to guard versus his normal playing at tackle. So, yeah, I mean, you would think that would help out, just being in your more natural position. But certainly, that offensive line, you got to definitely key in on those guys because if they play well, Baylor's got a chance to win. If they don't play well, it's not like Texas will overwhelm them the same way West Virginia did, but they do have the ability to do that.
Chai Bear. Burton, I hope his protection, possibly moving the tackle, helps the offensive line stop the pass rush, open up holes. Side note, I'm also interested to see how Fedora changes things up, if at all, based on the first two games. I know he's not a player, but wanted to throw that out there. Also, Bernardo Doyle on defense. Offense, Ty Thornton. This is from Kappa-esque. Ty Thornton. Defense, TJ Franklin. KSGO, it's Treston Ebner. Obviously, he was just like nowhere to be found and couldn't get him loose.
So do you think that person, based on their name, is a geologist, a geographer, or are they last name is George?
I think Armstrong has something.
I was just going to say these names are fantastic. I think I need a new name because my name is
Geo.
Oh, is yours Armstrong Sims?
Mine's just on everything on Twitter and everything is Armstrong Sims.
No, they'll find you.
I know. I need something new.
You can't be just CJ, but you Armstrong. But I mean, I've always put up mine under Smokey.
Yeah.
But Surf Oso, nice. California dude, huh? Brewer. Last game in Austin, where his dad and uncle are legends.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing Charlie. I mean, based on those responses and just, because that's going to tell the tale of where they're kind of leaning, where the direction is going. It's going to be all based on the quarterback. I think most people feel good about the defense. Now, Texas is good enough to beat you up, and they, will surely throw the ball down the field a little bit. Ellinger's going to have his run game thing going on. I don't know how much, the backs will be involved, but after their last performance, I would think on the one hand, Tom Herman doesn't want to get Keontae Ingram too involved because it'll likely turn into a costly turnover. But you got to get that run game going and not have it just riding on the – because if they rely on their running game being Sam Ehlinger, Baylor will shut that down. They're going to have to get some other contributions as far as running the football goes. The passing game, I mean, they got some big receivers, but Baylor appears to be pretty healthy in the secondary. Unlike a couple of weeks ago, Kalen Barnes is back and, Tejada's steady. It's going to be a good matchup. I think it could turn into a really good game. At least that's what my hopes are, but certainly Brewer will have to play well.
Newman, Bernard, Brewer, Gabe Hall returning. Those are the other responses from the website.
And Brewer, quite frankly, Paul, is the whole offense.
Yeah.
I mean, because for him to play well, the offensive line has to play well. Mm-hmm. For him to play well, the receivers have to play well. For him to play well, the backs have to play well. So I think when you answer Charlie Brewer, yes, we are all mostly, including myself, talking about him as an individual, but the rest of the group goes into that quite a bit as well, how he plays.
All right, thanks to Bob. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's just going to go into, can the offensive line keep him upright? And they have a lesser challenge than they did against West Virginia. That doesn't mean it's not a challenge, but Texas defensive line is not that. So this should be a game where you can maybe get a little bit right on that side of the ball.
Thanks to Brian Bell, China Spring, Ray Biles of Lorena, Mack Rhoades of Baylor, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, John McClain, Houston Chronicle, and thanks to Zach Robochik, Troy High School football running back. Thanks to CJ, Jack, and Armstrong for what they've done today. Thanks for all the feedback on the chat room brought to you by Willis Law Firm, the text line, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and also the phone calls. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, our great sponsors, Dr. Petty has us on his flat screen when you walk inside their office.
I'm
he,
sorry.
of course, the studio sponsor.
Sorry that you have to stare at me while you're in the waiting room.
I'm David Smoke for everyone I've mentioned and for you for watching and listening. Good night on Sikkim 365 Radio. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosis and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service to Central Texas. They tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts, and when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday mornings for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.